Chapter 365, Holding Hands, 2. Upon Yuk-Rin's words, several members of the Wuji religious order tremble. Among them, Baek-Rin trembles so much with rage that his jaw quivers. It seems as if at any moment, he might burst out with, "How dare you speak such nonsense?" He probably would have done so if his opponent isn't at the integration stage. I laugh softly for a moment, pondering how to politely decline this proposal. "I'm sorry, but this cult leader has no intention of taking a concubine at the time." "Oh, is that so? That's unfortunate." To my great relief, Yuk-Rin, feeling a twinge of conscience himself, does not press further. Instead, he smiles kindly and explains his reasons. "In truth, the reason this palace lord invited fellow distinguished noble in your order here was to propose an alliance. There aren't many alliances as strong as that formed by blood, so I intended to propose a marriage alliance. But it seems that's not possible." "Oh, an alliance, you say? Why would you wish to form an alliance with us? Is it not so very obvious? While I am the ruler of a sea domain, for nearly 200 years, I've heard countless tales of the Conqueror fleet's prestige. And that very Conqueror fleet is affiliated with your order as mercenaries. Wanting to join the strong is something natural for living beings." "Haha, that's quite flattering. But I fear that our order might only cause trouble for the governing Dragon Palace." When I politely decline, Yuk-Rin laughs heartily once again. It seems the cult leader finds the idea of joining forces with this Yuk uncomfortable. "Well, to be honest, it is the truth that there are no benefits for your order even if you form a relationship with our palace. How about this then? Tang." When he snaps his fingers, attractive force envelopes the area. The entire governing Dragon Island is cut off from the outside. While it can be seen as merely preventing surveillance, it can also mean he intends to attack us, making everyone tense up and watch him warily. However, Yuk-Rin does not attack us. He merely cast a few more spells, forming a barrier covering the entire governing Dragon Palace and a separate barrier isolating our very location. After employing these multiple layers of concealment techniques to block external gazes, he speaks in a secretive voice. "Originally, I intended to discuss this after forming an alliance, but I will propose it to you first." "A proposal?" "Yes. Since it's been a few days since you arrived in the ancient force realm, I believe you've grasped the situation here." "That's right. A world submerged in an ocean of destroyed worlds. It is indeed fascinating." "Haha. As expected, it must seem that way to those from other dimensions." "Well, the crucial point is this. There's a high chance of obtaining the relics of destroyed worlds when diving into the deep sea." "Indeed. The ancient force realm, aside from the risk of getting lost or encountering deep-sea monsters, is a world of endless possibilities. The ancient force realm is literally a collection of destroyed worlds, and as he says, there are countless opportunities to obtain treasures from the remnants of those destroyed worlds. Of course, it's just a possibility. Among the countless dimensional remnants, finding a proper relic is only feasible in the dimensions at the very depths of the deep sea. Even then, re-entering a dimension one has previously entered is not simple. This is because, just like the sea of other worlds filled with water, the deep sea of the ancient force realm has dimensions flowing endlessly like water. So, even if you happen to enter a dimension filled with many treasures, it's purely luck as to whether you can enter that dimension again next time. I've heard as such. Therefore, even if one accidentally stumbles upon a dimension rich in treasures, it's common to come back with trivial items due to being unable to properly explore the dimension. However, deep-sea islands, Sunaibao, are different. Upon hearing his words, Bu Qianghua, Kim Young-hoon, and the other members of the Bu Qiang fleet appear greatly surprised. Bu Qianghua, astonished, asks, "Is the governing Dragon Palace Lord saying he knows the location of a deep-sea island?" "That's correct. Though the Conqueror King has ruled over a couple sea domains, it seems she has not heard of a deep-sea island's location." Curious, I ask, "What exactly are these deep-sea islands?" In response to my question, Yunwei explains, "Cult leader, as the name suggests, a deep-sea island is an island located in the deep sea. Generally, most islands in the ancient force realm are fixed in place, floating on the surface of the deep sea. However, a deep-sea island is fixed within the deep sea itself." "Oh, astonishing. So, Palace Lord Yuk's words mean..." "Yes, that's correct. This Palace Lord knows the location of a deep-sea island. In fact, only a few among the countless Palace Lords of this ancient force realm know of one. Once discovered, the deep-sea island can be calmly explored and constantly challenged to continually obtain endless treasures. If one can fully possess it, they can turn it into the safest treasure vault known only to themselves." Yuk-Rin speaks with a subtle expression. "To be frank, as the ruler of the Weijiang Sea domain, I have a general grasp of all happenings across the domain. I watched your battles from afar. Oh, the power distinguished noble used is crucial for conquering the deep-sea island I discovered. Currently, The barrier surrounding the deep-sea island can only be easily penetrated using distinguished noble's power. In other words, he needs my help to penetrate the barrier of the deep-sea island. This is somewhat similar to Co. Rand's proposal. A long time ago, Co. Rand previously sought my help to pass through the barrier of the Nether crossing ship. And Co. Rand planned to betray me, but had a change of heart. I glance at Co. Rand, and he gives me a puzzled look when our eyes meet. I shift my gaze back to Yukrin. Although there are many treasures said to be on a deep-sea island, there's no guarantee that they will be beneficial to our order, is there? On a previous visit to the deep-sea island, I saw numerous spiritual elixirs in book form written in the language of ghostly creatures, all lined up on the shelves of a library within the island. Wawoom. Yukrin takes out a small ore from his sleeve and gently taps it, causing a holographic image to emerge from the ore. My eyes widen in surprise. Inside a dark library, on one of the bookshelves, there are countless books titled in the Netherworld language, such as Ritual Worship Scripture of Wealth Virtue, Ritual Worship Scripture of Longevity Virtue, and Ritual Worship Scripture of Love of Virtue. Each shelf is filled with numerous copies of a single type of book, except for one empty shelf. That empty shelf likely contained the Ritual Worship Scripture of Health Virtue. Given that you already built part of the 5 blessings axes and have some understanding of them, let me explain. In the Middle Realms, if such axes corresponding to a realm are collected like such and not used properly, they get reabsorbed by the corresponding realm. The books likely dissolved into the Ancient Force realm. The governing Dragon Palace does not need such axes. I, for one, am at the integration stage and have no need for more axes. Additionally, having more people with such axes would only threaten my position as the ruler of the Jiangxi domain. However, considering that the relationship between the cult leader and the subordinates of the order does not seem to be that of a hierarchical structure, is this not an opportunity to get your hands on 4 axis stage forces armed with the 5 blessings axes all at once? He speaks to me with a subtle expression. Most importantly, as someone who is building the 5 blessings axes, the cult leader must know how difficult it is to obtain the love of virtue axis, the most difficult axis of axes, does he not? Haha. If you help this palace lord, I am willing to give you the entire library. Of course, I don't know what other treasures might be inside, but any treasure you find will be yours. This palace lord only needs to obtain 2 specific items from the interior. I look at the holographic image of the library. It's real. Yukrin isn't lying about anything regarding the deep-sea island. The existence of such an island, the need for my help to enter it, and the abundance of ritual worship scriptures to build the 5 blessings axes within that island. All of it is entirely true. If so, it is only right to accept immediately. With Yunwei's explanation, not only I and the senior members of the Wuji religious order, but also the senior members of the Buqiang fleet now understood the significance of the 5 blessings axes and the treasures containing such axes. Everyone holds their breath in awe. However, I exchange glances with Kim Young-hoon. Suspicious. But it seems Yukrin is aware of my concern about betrayal, as he immediately presents something black in front of us. It's a contract. I read the contract he handed over. The paper contains the details of an alliance between the Wuji religious order and the governing Dragon Palace written in the language of the demon race. This contract is no ordinary document. I gaze at the material of the contract, which is made of some unknown leather, with gleaming eyes. Especially Bu Qianghua, who seems to recognize something, shows a startled expression as she looks at the contract. Does the Conqueror King know about this? I turn to her and ask, while Yukrin chuckles and says, Haha, this seat will explain. This contract is made from a material called black ancient paper, which is rarely found in the deep sea of the ancient force realm. To be precise, it's not a genuine black ancient paper, but a replica. However, even a replica holds the same functions as a genuine one. A contract written on black ancient paper allows for a higher existence to act as a mediator, ensuring the contract's effectiveness as long as that existence is alive. The higher mediator is the being registered on this black ancient paper is none other than Sacred Master He Lin of the Ancient Force Realm. The Sacred Master guarantees our alliance. I carefully examine the alliance contract. Unlike the scammer Yukyo, the black ancient paper presented by Yukrin doesn't contain any particularly disadvantageous clauses for us. The contract itself is rather lenient. It mostly prohibits unilateral betrayal and requires mutual protection in case of a crisis. There are no additional clauses in fine print, nor are there any other papers attached to the contract. There is really nothing suspicious about it. If there is something suspicious, it's just one thing. This guy, governing Dragon Palace, Lord Yukrin. It's just him. Is he thinking of stabbing me in the back? While I didn't notice through the video call Magic Artifact, meeting him in person makes it clear. As if he's scared people won't recognize him as Yukyo's father, he is full of wriggling intent with the desire to definitely scam me. I glance at the jade prayer beads on Yukrin's arm. A magic artifact to block the eyes of the Heart Tribe. I had seen something similar from Seo Huiol before. It seems it was prepared to block the eyes of the fighting ghost race pirate captain, but it isn't sufficient to block the eyes of me or Kim Young-hoon, allowing me to read everything. Kim Young-hoon, reading the bastard's hidden intentions, asks me in heart language. Would it be right to blow his head off? Twitch. Although Yuk-rin can't detect our heart language, his face tenses slightly, as if the heaven and earth spiritual energy is warning him of something suspicious. I chuckle and let my comrade see the entire contract. Our order makes major decisions by consulting with the law protector and our higher-ups, so I ask for your understanding. That's entirely reasonable. While outwardly maintaining a composed expression and comfortable controlling the heaven and earth spiritual energy, I keep a wary eye on Yuk-rin, who only has thoughts on backstabbing me. I ask Bu Qianghua, who seems knowledgeable about black ancient paper. Do you know the differences between a genuine black ancient paper and a replica? There isn't much difference. The replica can only register beings up to a true person as a mediator, while the genuine one can use even true immortals as mediators. The genuine one is extremely valuable, and I've heard that only the Sacred Master possesses one in the ancient Force realm. Ho! She examines the black ancient paper in my hand and explains. It doesn't seem like there's any trickery in the contract itself. I show the contract to Bu Qianghua, Kim Young-hoon, John Myung-hoon, Hong Fan, and Yun Wei, and they all nod in agreement that there is nothing suspicious about the contract itself. The contract's content is indeed just a prohibition of betrayal and a mutual protection treaty, so there's no way to be deceived solely by this contract. But I have no choice but to contemplate. Even if the contract is fine, if the person making the contract is a scammer, it's bound to be a scam contract. Do you have any records that show the entire Deep Sea Island? Here. These are all the records and exploration logs this palace lord made while exploring the Deep Sea Island. Yuk-rin willingly hands me a crystal orb. When he taps the crystal ball, countless illusions containing information about the Deep Sea Island rise in the air. Countless scenes float in the air, seemingly depicting Yuk-rin's memories of exploring the Deep Sea Island. Then, I and Bu Qianghua, along with Seo Ran, Song Jin, and Kim Young-hoon, focus on one particular illusion among those that record the entire Deep Sea Island. Twitch. I widen my eyes and stare at the illusion. Does this Deep Sea Island perhaps have a name? He smiles and replies. If you read my exploration log, you'll know that the Deep Sea Island was once called Penglai Island, RTOC. In front of my eyes appears the Deep Sea Island named Penglai Island. Penglai Island is covered by a translucent spherical barrier emitting a pure white light, and at the center of Penglai Island is a colossal mountain occupying half the island's area. That mountain is a pure white salt mountain. Yuk-rin chuckles, opening his mouth as if to explain something. At that moment, a message talisman flies urgently towards Yuk-rin. Upon receiving it, his face twists in frustration. With a face barely suppressing his anger, he stands up. It's embarrassing to say, but it seems the daughter that distinguished noble escorted back has run away again. As she couldn't have gone far, I will quickly catch her and come back. Haha. I deeply apologize, but please wait a moment. Grinding his teeth, Yuk-rin leaves the room, and I speak to Baek-rin. 13th Guardian Ghost King, Sacred Orchid Princess Yukyo was originally your responsibility to escort. It would be unseemly for the host to take action personally. Escort Sacred Orchid Princess back together with the governing Dragon Palace Lord. Yes, cult leader. Haha. There's really no need to help, but it's this cult leader's kindness, so please accept it. Thank you very much. Yuk-rin leaves the room, grinding his teeth in shame, and Baek-rin follows him. At least with Baek-rin following, he won't kill his daughter. I felt it from the moment I arrived, but Yuk-rin seems to have no familial affection for Yukyo. Judging by the anger in Yuk-rin's intent, there's a chance he might actually kill Yukyo. Though she is a scamming, scoundrel coy, she provided us with the basic knowledge of the ancient Force realm, so I can't let her just be killed by her father. Soon after, Yuk-rin's presence disappears from governing Dragon Island, and I snap my fingers to take control of the formation Yuk-rin has set up. Stutut. The wonderfully mysterious innate heart cannon lays the Mad Lord's circuit over the barrier, temporarily creating a space even Yuk-rin can't monitor. Now then, I'd like to hear everyone's opinions. Given the situation, it's best to hold a quick meeting. Bu Qianghua speaks first. There is nothing suspicious about the contract itself. However, Kim Young-hoon frowns and shakes his head. You saw it too, didn't you? Inside that governing Dragon Palace Lord's head, he has nothing but thoughts of backstabbing us. Of course, the reward he offered is real. His words make the faces of the Guardian Ghost Kings present fill with anger. How dare he? Attempting to deceive the cult leader. Like father, like daughter. Cult leader. We must destroy Governing Dragon Island and turn that palace lord into fish soup. For a while, the Guardian Ghost Kings vent their anger until Hong Fan quietly speaks up. Silence. At Hong Fan's command, the Guardian Ghost Kings all shut their mouths, and he calmly looks at Seo Ran and asks, "Does noble Seo Ran have anything to say?" Seo Ran nods and speaks. "Firstly, Senior, as you have also seen, that was a salt mountain. And the energy wave we saw in Governing Dragon Palace Lord's memory is undoubtedly the same as the energy wave of Sir Chongmon Raya. Since Yuk Rin is of the Earth tribe, the illusion based on his memory also includes the flow of heaven and earth spiritual energy. Indeed, it is so. That salt mountain is the same as Chongmon Ryong's. In other words, it's a relic left by the owner of Salt Mountain." Kim Young-hoon nods at Seo Ran's words. "As expected, I thought it was related to Chongmon Ryong. It will certainly help in rescuing him." Hong Fan nods and says, "For me, seeing those numerous axes makes me think that bringing them to our order will grant us immense power." That's right. Moreover, there's the ritual worship scripture of love of virtue. The axis of love of virtue is more difficult to obtain than other axes. It's to the point that even Yunwei has yet to obtain the love of virtue axis. Yunwei opens her mouth. "So, the current situation is this. Yuk Rin is very likely to backstab us, but the rewards are too enticing to ignore. Is this not it?" "That's correct. Then there is a very simple solution." "What is it?" As I look at Yunwei with a puzzled expression, she smiles and explains. "It is a very fundamental strategy of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect passed down from the times of the founder. The founder said that this method could reveal the true intentions of anyone." Although I show a slightly uneasy look at the words "passed down from the times of the founder," she continues without concern. "Right now, at this moment, capture that suspicious fish and implant the ascetic lightning curse banner, Kuxing Linofun, in his head and torture him. Since you're skilled in curses, you can perform even more diverse tortures. Once captured, continue inflicting pain, and he will reveal all his hidden cards and become very cooperative. What are you waiting for? All Guardian Ghost Kings, prepare to conquer Governing Dragon Palace. Since that fellow invited us, let us collapse the barrier from the inside, capture his fortress, and lay a trap. When he returns, we will capture and torture him. You though." Chapter 366, Holding Hands, 3. Join the Discord for chapter updates and important news. Chapter 366, Holding Hands, 3. I contemplate with cold eyes. Yunwei, with her hands on her hips, looks at me with questioning eyes and asks in a small voice. "There's no time, Seo Eunhyun. You need to use your specialty to remodel this fortress and create traps, do you not?" Usually, I would take Yunwei's words as mere reference and act in the opposite way. Her actions are largely influenced by Yang Sujin's conduct, and I am the polar opposite of Yang Sujin. But honestly, Yuk Rin, that guy can't be trusted. His blatant scheming for betrayal can't be left unchecked. After some deliberation, I make a quick decision. I won't turn the Governing Dragon Palace into a trap. "No, Eunhyun, what do you mean by? There won't be a need to create traps." As expected of the cult leader, Yunwei, who is about to complain, quickly changes her attitude and cheers upon hearing my words. I stand up and look at Bu Qianghua before asking. "In the Conqueror King's opinion, can the Conqueror King's fleet subdue the Governing Dragon Palace Lord?" She ponders for a moment before responding. "If the entire fleet was brought here, it would be possible. But with only a third of the fleet's strength, it's difficult." "Is that calculation including Kim Young-hoon?" "Yes, it is. The usual fleet strength is calculated including the presence of Sir Surpassing Radiant Divine Demon Kim Young-hoon." "I see. What if we add our order's integration stage 6 Extremes Ghost King?" Bu Qianghua briefly glances at John Myung-hoon, seemingly calculating the total strength. "In that case, it's possible. However, to handle the Governing Dragon Palace Lord's subordinates, we need someone proficient in fighting multiple enemies." At that, I look at Oh Hyunsuk and Kim Yun. Both are adept in fighting multiple opponents. Given that Kim Yun seems to have a slight tension with Bu Qianghua, sending Oh Hyunsuk would be. "I'll go." Unexpectedly, Kim Yun volunteers. I feel uneasy sending this fool alone. It's only right that I help as the older sister. She looks at Bu Qianghua with an attitude as if she is going to assist her clumsy younger sibling, and Bu Qianghua lets out a snicker as if she finds it absurd. "Shouldn't I be the one helping you? Honestly, our fleet's strength surpasses yours." "Oh really? Is that why you were caught by me?" The two glare at each other, their eyes blazing with hostility. Just a few days ago, it looked like things were getting better. It seems they have reverted to their old ways. Or maybe not. I chuckle wryly, reading the emotions between them. "All right, then the volunteering mysterious bizarre Ghost King Kim Yun will support the Bu Qiang fleet." As I stand up and snap my fingers, The barriers across the entire governing Dragon Island collapse under attraction force. Governing Dragon Island is thrown into chaos. Six Extremes Ghost King John Myung-hoon and Mysterious Bizarre Ghost King Kim Yun will support the Conqueror King Buk Hyangwa's fleet and assist in the Buk Hyang fleet and surpassing Radiant Divine Demons battle to capture the governing Dragon Palace Lord Yukrin alive. Receive. It's quite amusing to capture the host as guests, but what else can be done? Now, even if I'm stabbed in the back, it's no longer just my concern. If I am deceived, it would mean the entire Wuji religious order is deceived. Even with the ability to foresee others' hidden intentions, I can't gamble with the order's safety. The risks need to be eliminated in advance. Kugugugugu. I raise my momentum and command the ghostly creatures of the Twilight Domain in the language of the Nether Ghost Realm. Occupy it. 18 heads sprout from my shoulders, and my body turns black. Whoa. Oh. Ay. Countless ghostly creatures howl as they begin to engulf governing Dragon Island. Kugugugugu. Yun, a half-human, half-fish demon beast at the early Chi building stage who lives peacefully on governing Dragon Island, is collecting clams and returning home as usual. Normally, she would have returned quickly, but today she has to take a long detour around her usual path. This is because today, esteemed guests are visiting governing Dragon Island, and a public notice has been issued stating that a third-class citizen, like her from the half-fish race, should not be seen by these distinguished guests. Kuduk, Wadududuk. Having gathered clams, she sets foot on the ground and begins to transform her body. The half-human, half-fish form of the half-fish race has a unique trait. They can move freely on both land and water without using any special abilities. Her lower body, which was in the form of a fish, transforms into human legs, while her upper body remains that of a fish. Yun, now in her terrestrial form, hums through her fish mouth as she carries the clams and takes the long way home. Although it's a longer journey than usual, it's fine. In fact, it's more peaceful because she can avoid the main road where second-class citizen demon beasts who often pick on her are located. Yun ponders about what to cook for her family with the clams she has collected today. Her village, a settlement of third-class citizens known as the Abandoned Fish Village, is peaceful. Even though her half-fish race is the most discriminated against among the third-class citizens, the village is kind enough to always call upon her family for help when needed and share leftover food. She thinks that Abandoned Fish Village is a truly good place. Kaiya. Whoa. Oh. Suddenly, the entire governing Dragon Island is covered in dark clouds, and terrifying ghosts begin to fill the sky. Shocked by this bizarre phenomenon, Yun hurriedly runs towards her home. Due to a restraint on flying techniques for anyone below second-class citizens on governing Dragon Island, she is physically incapable of flying. Finally, when Yun reaches her village, she sees it engulfed in flames. Black ghosts and grotesque cursed dolls are setting the village ablaze with ghost fire. Kaiya. Guaza. Yuna. Run away. Don't come here. Her parents shout frantically upon seeing her. She drops the clam she gathered today and steps back in shock. Kaiya, by the cult leader's command. Kaiya, the cult leader has ordered to verify the population and issue identity plaques on governing Dragon Island. Everyone, gather for a moment. Oh, the cult leader has commanded us to serve with utmost kindness and ensure the residents do not feel anxious. Let's burn down the old village for disinfection and build new structures. Kik. These lowly demon races of the ancient Force realm. We'll show them a taste of the construction techniques of the Nether Ghost realm. The ghosts, speaking in the incomprehensible language of the Nether Ghost realm, shriek horrifically as they round up the villagers of Abandoned Fish Village and begin burning down the buildings, constructing something bizarre. Yun flees. The hideous laughter of the ghosts and cursed dolls have completely overturned her peaceful daily life. Filled with utmost terror, she runs with her frail human legs. And then, amidst the bushes, eerie puppet soldiers appear. The cursed dolls with rotating heads shout bizarre words at Yun. Little lady, are you lost? It's dangerous to wander alone, miss. Let us take you to your parents. Where's your home? Kike. Yun screams and runs again. The cursed dolls shriek in the dreadful language of the Nether Ghost realm as they chase her. Hey, miss. That's the direction of the deep sea. Come back. Gee, go away. Go, Awa. She stumbles at the edge of governing Dragon Island. With tears in her eyes, Yun falls into the deep sea. She then sees countless ships with flags written in the language of the ancient Force realm. The flags on the ships read, Wuji Religious Order Subordinate Buk Hyang Fleet. Ah, I see. The devilish cult from another world, and the Conqueror King's Conqueror Fleet. Yun falls into the deep sea, capturing in her eyes the main culprits who have ruined her daily life. The story of how Yun, a half-human, half-fish, falls into the deep-sea island hidden below governing Dragon Palace, where she would later gain fortuitous encounters and become a warrior burning with vengeance against the Wuji religious order, is a tale for another time. Meanwhile, leaving her behind, the Buqiang fleet sets sail. Kugugugugu. Buqianghua, the commander of the Buqiang fleet, glances uncomfortably at Kim Yun beside her. Instead of just playing around, why don't you capture the subordinates of the Governing Dragon Palace escaping from Governing Dragon Island? Oh my, sorry, but it's better to capture them when they regroup later to assist their palace lord. Catching them while they're scattered and escaping now is less effective. Huh, such an excuse instead of thinking of quickly capturing even one more is rather disgraceful. I can't hear the words of someone who clung to me, crying wah wah. Very well. Buqianghua's face turns red. That? I never did that, okay? Why are you in the commanding room anyway? How is it okay for your memory to become like a carp's when we're going to catch one? Did I not say that just like the last time I broke into your commanding room, the subordinates of Governing Dragon Palace can do the same, so I'm here to protect you? That was an exception, and I said no protection was needed. And it's not a carp, but a koi. Isn't your intelligence more like a carp's? Kim Yun and Buqianghua glare at each other, gritting their teeth. Just drive your fleet better, Wawa. Who are you calling Wawa? Don't call me that. Well, I wasn't talking to you, but to Wawa, who clung to me crying. Wawa. So why are you taking offense? Didn't you say it wasn't you? Ugh. Buqianghua, with her face flushed red, glares at Kim Yun and eventually focuses on commanding the fleet. Kugugugugu. And a while later, in the vision of Buqianghua and Kim Yun appears Yuk Rin, wearing a scarlet dragon robe, and Baek Rin. And also Yuk Yo, whose hair is being grabbed by Yuk Rin. Yuk Rin, holding Yuk Yo by the hair, looks back with an expressionless face. Yuk Yo is covered in blood all over her body, unable to even maintain flight, and hangs from Yuk Rin's grip. Baek Rin looks on, seemingly aghast at the sight. Yuk Rin locks eyes with the Buqiang fleet and asks, "The Conqueror King should be enjoying the banquet. Why have you come all the way here? It seems a bit excessive to bring such equipment just for a mere stroll." At those words, from the first Yang ship of the Buqiang fleet, on its bow stands a man in black martial attire. The surpassing radiant divine demon Kim Young-hoon replies, "Haha, I feel quite apologetic to the Governing Dragon Palace Lord, but the Buqiang fleet and Wuji religious order have just concluded negotiations for us to take over this Jiangxi domain." However, Yuk Rin isn't particularly surprised by this. Well, I expected this the moment I saw that person's face. He recalls the face of Yun Wei, the military strategist of the Wuji religious order. Though she seems unaware of him, Yuk Rin is well acquainted with her face. About 40,000 years ago, when Yuk Rin just reached the heavenly being stage, the infamous human from the bright cold realm who turned the ancient force realm upside down, the betrayal king, Jin Wei. After learning about the 5 blessings axes from the Black Ghost Palace in the Nether Ghost realm, she betrayed them and came to the ancient force realm. She then betrayed the faction that taught her about the situation in the ancient force realm and repeatedly switched sides while building the health axis. Eventually, after fully building her axis, she escaped through her sect in the bright cold realm. I heard she then even betrayed her sect and fiancé. Although her reputation has faded significantly over the past 40,000 years, Yuk Rin clearly remembers her face and notoriety. The crazy human who betrayed my uncle's Cherry Blossom Dragon Palace, which was the force that helped her settle in the ancient force realm, and stole 1,000,000 ancient stones before fleeing. Yuk Rin's paternal uncle, Cherry Blossom Dragon Palace Lord Yuk Ung, was already nearing the end of his lifespan and didn't have much time left. He left the world in lingering shock not long after due to her betrayal. If Conqueror King Buqianghua is known for stabilizing the sea domains after conquering them, Jin Wei is infamous for causing chaos wherever she goes like a loach. Starting from the time when she rampaged to obtain spiritual medicine to boost her fiancé's vitality and captured the 4-axis stage eel race's chieftain, to taking the bear bile of the Great Bear race's chieftain who helped hide her. Jin Wei, who seemed to live solely for endless schemes, deception, and betrayal, was dubbed the Betrayal King in the ancient force realm. Knowing of the Betrayal King's notorious reputation, Yuk Rin anticipated that the Wuji religious order would eventually betray him. Thus, he prepared to backstab Yun Wei first. But as expected, the human race indeed lives up to their reputation. To think they would corner me like this before I could strike first. And that too, while being a guest I had invited, no less. Yuk Rin's eyes twitch as he addresses Kim Young-hoon. I did not expect the forces of the famed and proud Conqueror King to oppress this palace lord as such. Wasn't the Conqueror fleet known for targeting only tyrannical palace lords? That's correct. Kim Young-hoon nods. Then are you saying this palace lord has committed such tyranny in the Jiangxi domain? That is not the case. What? Then are you saying you are oppressing this palace lord without any reason? There is a misunderstanding. While it is true that we oppose tyrannical palace lords, There is one more reason we are opposing the governing Dragon Palace Lord. CHCHCHCHD. Golden light begins to emanate from Kim Young-hoon's entire body. That reason is that anyone who tries to oppose us first is unconditionally conquered. The reason we, the Conqueror Fleet, have conquered 3C domains is not just because of tyranny, but because they threatened us first. And the same goes for you, governing Dragon Place Lord. As Yuk-rin locks eyes with Kim Young-hoon, he realizes something. I see. I've heard much about you, surpassing radiant divine demon. They say you practice a unique method to conceal your aura, but it seems you're of the same kind as the owner of Saltbone's ship. Saltbone's, Yangu ship, the notorious pirate fleet of the ancient Force realm formed by the Fighting Ghost race and several other brutal races. The flagship of the Fighting Demon Pirate Gang. The one who used the rare and precious salt crystals to form the entirety of the Saltbone's ship's keel. The Fighting Demon Pirate Gang's captain, Jean Meol. Yuk-rin caresses his bracelet. Can you read my heart essence even now? I have maximized the capabilities of my magic artifact. Kim Young-hoon draws his sword in silence. Yuk-rin clicks his tongue. You can see it, it seems. You appear superior to that Jean Meol. Was the name of the technique he practiced called fighting steps? But Kim Young-hoon's eyes twitch as if in displeasure. Mine is entirely different from his. He practices fighting steps, while mine is called martial arts. Is it different? Of course. To begin with, Kim Young-hoon lowers his surpassing radiant saber with a look of irritation. That person is not a martial artist. Of course he isn't. That person is of the Fighting Ghost race. Enough. You won't understand anyway. Just surrender quietly. Huh. Yuk-rin sneers as he begins to envelop his entire body with his domain. Arrogant thing. You dare to oppress this seat? Kugugugugu. Yuk-rin's entire body swells as he transforms into a massive scarlet dragon clad by his domain. Though he manipulates the heaven and earth spiritual energy around him as if agitated, his inner thoughts remain cold and calculating. I've covered my body with my domain and maximized the activation of my magic artifact. No matter how skilled he is in fighting steps, it will be difficult to read my emotions now. As expected, Kim Young-hoon stops reading his intent and begins gathering his fighting energy. Yuk-rin clicks his tongue, his eyes cold despite his seemingly agitated demeanor. Surpassing radiant divine demon Kim Young-hoon, the Buk-hyang fleet of the Conqueror King. Moreover, the integration stage grand cultivator who nearly overwhelmed Jean Meol, along with that human woman who seems unusual. I'm going to lose. He casually throws Yuk-yo aside and spits out a beam of light from his mouth. Kim Young-hoon's golden saber splits Yuk-rin's breath. Watching Kim Young-hoon and John Myung-hoon flying towards him, Yuk-rin ponders. It doesn't matter anyway. I'll let them win today. If I can infiltrate deeper into their ranks, if I can enter Penglai Island, I will emerge as the ultimate victor. Sign here, Yuk-rin. The Buk-hyang fleet capture Yuk-rin alive and present him with the black ancient paper. The original contract terms were entirely revised by Yun Wei. As a result, Yuk-rin, who was supposed to be our ally, had his status reduced to nearly that of a slave. In the end, in front of everyone, he signs the contract that reduces him to a quasi-slave status under the Wuji religious order in the name of Sacred Master He Lin of the Ancient Force realm. I question Yuk-rin. Yuk-rin, you consistently hid something from us and tried to backstab us. This cult leader can read heart essence, so reveal what you have been hiding. Hoo-hoo, quite impressive. Are you using a mind-reading technique? It's similar, but let's just say it is. He sighs deeply and tells us the truth. I intended to betray both the Wuji religious order and you. Why? But before I can pursue the reason, Yun Wei shouts beside me. Her intent jumps as if she realizes something about Yuk-rin. Cult leader. There's no need to listen to him. The demon race of the ancient Force realm is infamous for betrayal, deception, and trickery. It's in their nature, so knowing the reason is meaningless. Instead, it's more important to find out how he intended to betray us. Did she suffer a lot in the ancient Force realm before? Following the advice of Yun Wei, who has experience with the ancient Force realm, I change my question. You proposed an alliance through the black ancient paper, so how were you planning to betray us? Yuk-rin grins widely and explains. Once we enter Penglai Island, the power of the black ancient paper nearly vanishes. Within the island's barrier, countless oaths and contracts lose their effectiveness. So you intended to use Penglai Island's uniqueness to betray us. Something like that. In that case, I continue the interrogation of Yuk-rin, who is now bound by a slave contract. Wai Yun, the young girl from the half-fish race, stirs and opens her eyes. It's a dark place. Didn't I jump into the deep sea? Contrary to the deep sea formed by dimensions, she finds herself surrounded by real water. The area is filled with salty water. Transforming her lower body into that of a fish, Wai Yun begins to explore. Eventually, She realizes she has fallen into a lake-like place and swims towards its edge. Where is this? At the edge of the lake, she sees a gigantic statue of a sea dragon. Translator notes, mysterious ancient paper - black ancient paper. Chapter 367, Holding Hands 4. The interrogation of Yuk Rin has concluded. There are two methods Yuk Rin intended to use to betray us. The first is the characteristic that all oaths and contracts disappear upon entering Punlai Island. The second is another characteristic of Punlai Island's interior. Truly bizarre. According to Yuk Rin, the interior of Punlai Island is a kind of massive illusion formation. Upon entering this illusion formation, the internal world of the formation reconstructs to match us, and we become characters within that illusion, only able to explore the formation using the powers and abilities that those characters possess. The power granted to these characters is said to be the power originally held by their race. For me and others, it would be the power of humans. And for sure Ho and Yuk Rin, they would undoubtedly gain the power of fox and dragon. In other words, he planned to betray us by using Punlai Island's inherent characteristic of nullifying all oaths and contracts, and the characteristic of nullifying all powers except the original power held by the respective race, granted by the island's formation. We could have been in quite a predicament. However, even if we were deceived and entered Punlai Island as he intended, Kim Young-hoon and I might not have been in significant danger. Having everything except our original human powers being nullified and being unable to use any cultivation techniques, we can still use martial arts anyway. Kugagugagu. It's currently night in the Ancient Force realm. Unlike the Nether Ghost realm, where day and night are distinguished only by the presence or absence of constellations, the Ancient Force realm has a clear distinction between day and night. A ring-like structure stretches across the sky of the Ancient Force realm, emitting a light similar to moonlight, creating the atmosphere of a dim and dark night. After conquering Governing Dragon Island, we are currently heading to another sea domain to join forces with the Bukhyang fleet, with Yuk Rin captured. I will likely see Songjin soon. Standing at the edge of the Twilight Domain, I turn back after gazing at the night sea of the Ancient Force realm. The ghosts of the Nether Ghost realm, more energetic at night than during the day, are now enthusiastically throwing a ghostly feast. Having just returned from volunteer work on Governing Dragon Island, everyone seems to feel a sense of fulfillment. As I watch them, I fall into thought. If the condition for fixing my regression point is truly to go to and return from the Head Realm, should I go once more? The Head Realm is an extremely terrifying place. Just sensing the presence of the owner of Salt Mountain in that place fills me with immense fear and despair. That world is full of unfathomable malice and ominousness. But if they were to disappear, I can't even imagine how much my heart would ache. It first started as just a religious order to build the longevity axis, but they have now become a part of me. Whoa. My consciousness sweeps through the Twilight Domain. The ghostly creatures boasting about their volunteering activities on Governing Dragon Island and holding a feast. Yun Wei's split soul, temporarily leaving Yun Jin's body, being fervently praised by the guardian ghost kings. Wei Shirhan and Eum Hua engrossed in making their second generation. Baek Rin tending to Yuk Yo's wounds. Shirho getting a massage from Seo Ran. John Myung-hoon practicing cultivation methods with Yun Jin in a private room. Oh Hyun-suk training the ghostly creatures who want to become stronger using the Azure Heaven Creation Sect's methods. Kim Yun and Buk Hyang-hwa drunkenly fighting, pulling each other's hair. It's peaceful. No matter how ominous the Head Realm may be. If going there again means I can continue to be with them, I will go anytime. After investigating the Salt Mountain on Palai Island and finding a way to heal Chongmun Ryo, descend to the Head Realm and, if possible, fix my regression point. Yes, if I can go to the Head Realm in this life, let's go again. Resolving myself like so, I look around at the night sea of the Ancient Force realm. Wawum. The night sea of the Ancient Force realm is incredibly mysterious. Shua. The sound of the waves crashing echoes. Within that sound, the voices of countless beings can be heard. Simultaneously, beyond the multitude of voices, the entire sea of the Ancient Force realm faintly glows. Murmur. Above the undulating seawater, countless shadows appear and disappear repeatedly. How long have I been watching this? Eun-hyun, you shouldn't stare at the deep sea of the Ancient Force realm for too long at night. Young-hoon Hyungnim. I turn around to see Kim Young-hoon calling me. He has a bruise around one eye, and his clothes are torn in several places. Chi. It seems he is healing himself with a healing talisman. I thought you didn't get hurt while fighting Yuk Rin. Oh, this injury is from Oh Hyun-suk. Pardon. Oh Hyun-suk and I were drinking, and his cultivation method seemed similar to a path I briefly pursued before, so I asked him how he cultivated. Then, the guy offered to train me, and when I told him to go ahead, this crazy bastard tied me to a pillar and... I see. It seems Kim Young-hoon was subjected to the training method of the Great Azure Heaven Creation sect for a while. A Kim Young-hoon of a previous life had once been training in martial arts when he discovered a part of it that was connected to demon beast methods and briefly tried to pursue that path. It seems the Kim Young-hoon of this cycle had also briefly attempted that path. But you didn't beat up Hyunsuk Hyungnim and escape? It's fine to take a few hits from a close younger brother. It wouldn't be right to get angry and draw my blade over it, no? Then why when it was me? Because if I don't draw my blade against you, I feel like I might die. Kim Young-hoon laughs heartily, and after his wounds heal due to the talisman, he removes it and places his hand on his saber hilt. You want to go at it again? Haha, my beloved weapons are all broken. If I go against you again, I'll just get beaten up without being able to resist. I'm here for another reason. Boom. He draws his saber from the sheath and swings it in the air. He doesn't particularly slash or attack me. There isn't even a hint of killing intent, but for an instant, I see an illusion of the world splitting before my eyes from his swing. While fighting you, I glimpsed the next realm. I shudder at his words. There is only one realm Kim Young-hoon could have reached. As second step before the throne, the same realm as Jangik. I'm frighteningly startled, but then I think of Kim Young-hoon's trait and chuckle. Then, in about 50 years, I'll be able to learn from you, Young-hoon Hyungnim. Well, that's not it. Then in 100 years. Not that either. I can wait a few hundred years. However, Kim Young-hoon seems to become gloomier at my hopeful questions. Hyungnim, for now, he speaks with a bitter expression. Even with my talent, I'll have to diligently polish and refine this enlightenment for hundreds of years before there's a chance to reach the next realm. Haha, it seems Young-hoon Hyungnim hasn't yet adapted to the sense of time in the cultivation world. But, he bites his lips and looks at me with desolate eyes. I cannot reach the next realm. I stare at Kim Young-hoon for a moment before bursting into laughter. Ha ha ha. It isn't mockery, but genuine amusement. How many times have I heard Kim Young-hoon say that? Hyungnim, believe in yourself. You can do it. By now, it's practically a given that Kim Young-hoon will reach the next realm after saying such words. Of course, in the past, Kim Young-hoon was often hindered by his lifespan. But now that he has reached this stage and gained an additional 10,000 years, it's enough. However, Kim Young-hoon's expression does not brighten. Silently, he raises his saber. I watch him for a moment before drawing my colorless glass sword and letting it hang down. Let's just purely compete in martial arts. Sounds good. In the next moment, Kim Young-hoon and I rush at each other, exchanging martial techniques. We both refrain from using excessive internal energy or spiritual power. He and I compete purely by channeling the vital energy that flows through our human bodies into our blades as we contest our skills. As we exchange moves for a while, our movements gradually become more intense. Kim Young-hoon spins from right to left, swinging his saber. The tip of his saber grazes my cheek. My sword slashes upwards from above my right foot, cutting Kim Young-hoon and leaving a vertical scratch beneath his eye. Tut-tut, tatadat. Even though we only use the basic vitality of our bodies, the amplification of power is astounding because of our high level of mastery. Kim Young-hoon and I move from one end of the twilight domain to the other in an instant, dancing as if to slice each other's shadows. He's too fast to catch, and I'm too free to hit. As we roam around the entire twilight domain for some time, I suddenly find myself out of the twilight domain and over the vast void, above the night sea of the ancient force realm. Of course, since we can move even by stepping on the void, it's not a problem for our duel. Kugagugagu. Before we know it, the twilight domain is passing by us who are fiercely clashing blades in midair, gradually advancing towards the horizon of the sea domain. Leaving the Weizhong sea domain behind, we head towards the end of the sea domain that looks like an air bubble, towards the wall formed by the dome sky. Tut-tut. As I exchange blows with him for a while, I momentarily lose my balance due to Kim Young-hoon's attack and nearly fall into the deep sea. Chwaak. Fortunately, just before falling into the deep sea, I managed to float in the void by enveloping my entire body with the All-Heavens sword. But at that very moment, I see something absurd. Tu-woom. A clear sound seems to ring, and Kim Young-hoon stands firmly on top of the deep sea. How are you doing that? It's not that difficult. Since this isn't real water but a type of dimension, just thinking of standing on the dimension makes it easy. And how are you doing that? You just need to stand on the dimension and maintain your balance. I give up understanding and just float near the surface of the deep sea. Around Kim Young-hoon, who is briefly laughing, illusions suddenly appear around him. They are the illusions I saw at the edge of the twilight domain earlier. The faces of the illusions are not clearly visible, just appearing as blurry shadows. However, while looking at the shadows, I suddenly feel a sense of déjà vu. At that moment, Kim Young-hoon points his saber at one of the illusions that approaches him and speaks. The sea of the ancient force realm reflects the past of its target. So sometimes, I think of Earth while looking at the night sea. Of course, it's not always the faces I like, which can be annoying at times. Ah, I see. This sense of déjà vu is. I realize the source of the déjà vu I feel from the night sea of the ancient force realm. The ancient force realm is reflecting the canvas of myriad forms and connections to me. As Kim Young-hoon aims his saber at the nearby illusion that has briefly approached him, he warns me with a wary look. Be careful. Sometimes deep-sea monsters appear pretending to be ordinary illusions of the ancient force realm. Having warned me, he swings his saber and cuts down the illusion. Surung. The illusion is split and vanishes. The illusion that dissipated around Kim Young-hoon had been wielding something like a whip that emerged from its arm before disappearing. After cutting down the illusion, Kim Young-hoon asks me, "Let me ask you, Seo Eun-hyun, what do you think martial arts are?" I don't know. It's too vast to simply define, and it's too easy an answer to a difficult guess. That is the meaning of martial arts. Maybe I'm not a martial artist. To me, martial arts are a part of life, but not everything. At the same time, since it's one of my strengths along with the numerous cultivation methods I have learned, I can't confidently say I understand what martial arts truly are. However, Kim Young-hoon grins widely and says, "You are indeed a martial artist. I can guarantee that. Even though I use not only martial arts, but also cultivation methods and demon beast methods. Well, having seen someone who is truly not a martial artist, I can confidently say you are one." Wawoom. The same illusion that Kim Young-hoon had just cut down rises again and attacks him. Feeling slightly annoyed, he no longer pays any attention to the illusion. The illusion brushes past Kim Young-hoon, and I realize that I have seen the outline of that illusion somewhere before. That man. It's Jin Myeol, the pirate captain of the Fighting Demon Pirates, who fought against John Myung-hoon. Kim Young-hoon glances at the illusion and says, "When I first came to the ancient force realm, I fought the pirate captain of a notorious pirate group. Surprisingly, he had been stuck at entering heavens for thousands of years. At first, I thought he was a martial artist, so I tried to treat him with respect. But after a few exchanges, I could tell. He is not a martial artist. Not a martial artist. It's a strange thing. That man has certainly entered treading heavens. Perhaps he gained enlightenment after fighting Kim Young-hoon and broke through. Why then does Kim Young-hoon not acknowledge him as a martial artist? That's why I took his weapon. It was too good a blade to be in the hands of someone who isn't a martial artist. The demon saber that fused with my hand and moved as if alive that you destroyed was his. Ah, I remember now. Indeed, it was a tough blade, and it took some time to tear it apart. Curious, I ask. Why isn't he a martial artist? Yuk Rin even obtained a magic artifact to protect against Jin Myeol's sight, meaning he has perfectly acquired the vision of the Heart Tribe. Moreover, if he reached the integration stage and rose to treading heavens, his efforts must have been indescribable. Why then does Kim Young-hoon not acknowledge him as a martial artist? Kim Young-hoon is silent for a moment, then lifts his saber. I will show you why it's impossible for me to reach the next stage. Then you will understand. Tu Woong Tung. He begins to perform a saber dance, stepping on the dimension. The illusions and remnants of the past around him are all cut down by his dance. But strangely, his movements leave no afterimages. Literally, it seems as if Kim Young-hoon exists only in this very moment. It's a metaphysical expression, but it's true. His heaven and earth spiritual energy cannot be read, and his next move cannot be predicted. It's as if his figure cannot be seen at any boundary of history and fate. Existing but not existing, in a strange emptiness. Comb. His saber dance ends, and I let out a gasp. Though my talent is limited, I can understand as someone who has held a sword for thousands of years. Because of Sir Chongmun Ryong, you did not name the next realm, right? Well, that's right. But in truth, you have already named it. I quietly utter the name that resonated from his dance just now. First step before the throne. What did Kim Young-hoon name this realm? Is it not seated detachment, standing oblivion, Huangguang? Chapter 368, Holding Hands, 5. A Regressor's Tale of Cultivation. Chapter 368, Holding Hands, 5. Seated detachment, standing oblivion. What does it mean? Literally, it means passing into nirvana while seated. It's a term implying the ability to control life and death freely and to project one's soul at will, astral projection. The single strike in the first step before the throne is essentially a part of me. So if you consider it as soul projection, that isn't wrong either. However, there is something I don't understand, so I ask. Why did you name it but never call it by that name? What good is reaching the ultimate state alone? It's a realm reached by cutting down my friend. Though the intention is clear, it's far from simply sitting comfortably and passing into nirvana. Too many things have happened. Is that so? It seems that he doesn't call it by its name due to the lingering guilt over Chongmun Ryong. Well, anyway, Was there anything else you saw? Backslash. Backslash. I saw something. Backslash. What Kim Young-hoon showed through his dance. It's a clue to the next realm. And though I may be dull, I haven't spent all this time wielding a sword for nothing. I understood that clue too. Beyond the realm of seated detachment, standing oblivion. To reach what is also called the second step before the throne, we must draw out all the possibilities within us. Just as Kim Young-hoon laid down his blood veins on his devilish swords and demon sabers to trigger their potential. Just as Tae Yeol-jon drew strength from the depths of her heart essence. Drawing out every possible potential is the key to the next realm. So, how does one with a mortal body draw out other possibilities? Seated detachment, standing oblivion is the nickname for the first step before the throne given by Kim Young-hoon, and also the training method for this realm. It is both standing oblivion, Ipmong, and entering oblivion, Long. TL/in, Wong, which I translated as oblivion, carries the meaning of being in a state non-existence, or of total loss. One must forget. In other words, one must sever. Sever all attachments to one's past, all fears about one's fate. Only by severing and forgetting everything, leaving only this moment, and reaching true emptiness, can one reach beyond seated detachment, standing oblivion. I understand why Kim Young-hoon said he can't reach the next realm. Backslash. You can't sever it. Backslash. 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 Indeed. Reaching beyond this realm requires severing and forgetting everything. But the only reason he could come this far is because of his longing. Telling him to forget everything is no different from telling him to throw away his identity. Kim Young-hoon looks at his saber with powerless eyes. Backslash. How can a person sever all connections? Backslash. 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 I let out a silent sigh at the sight. As Kim Young-hoon said, if severing everything is the key to the next realm, I too cannot reach the next realm. How can a person claim to sever all their connections without hesitation? Hearing his words, I feel endlessly gloomy. I found the method to the next realm, but it's an impossible path. Backslash, damn it, backslash. Kim Young-hoon, with a despondent expression, swings his saber. The surface of the dimension where he stands fluctuates along the trajectory of his saber. Backslash, that's why I asked Oh Hyun-suk to train me. Because no matter how much I train, it might really be impossible to reach the next realm. Backslash. Backslash, backslash. He stands still with his saber, as if tasting bitterness, then walks on the surface of the deep sea towards the twilight domain in the distance. Backslash, that's why I suggested a spar to talk about it. I wanted to confirm whether the enlightenment I have is truly correct. Backslash. Backslash, you're saying strange things. This is the first time I've heard about the clue to the next realm from Young-hoon Hyung-nim. So why would you spar with me to test it? Backslash. Backslash, that's because, haven't you already embodied the enlightenment of the next realm? Backslash. Backslash what? Backslash. I asked back in surprise, and Kim Young-hoon chuckles softly. Backslash, it seems you still haven't realized it yet, but you already possess the same level of enlightenment as I do, and you've embodied it entirely. That's why I gained enlightenment while fighting you. Backslash. Backslash, that's backslash. Backslash, there's no need to explain it to you in detail. Once you encounter the right opportunity, you'll naturally realize it on your own, and it's best to realize it by oneself. Anyway, I've confirmed my enlightenment. I'm going to see Oh Hyun-suk to receive some more training in that body cultivation method. Backslash. With those words, Kim Young-hoon returns to the twilight domain. I stand there for a moment, unable to say anything. The surroundings are still filled with countless illusions flickering around. I understand why Kim Young-hoon had cut down one of the illusions. The night sea of the ancient force realm vaguely reflects one's past, and Kim Young-hoon was trying to sever his own past. Of course, he must have known it's impossible, and thus left again. Backslash, backslash. I quietly remain in the night sea and look around. Backslash. Canvas of myriad forms and connections. Backslash. TSTSTSTST. The colorless glass sword hums, releasing faint fog around. It appears as though a hazy sea mist has appeared over the sea of the ancient force realm. And within that mist, countless nostalgic and longed for connections emerge. Woo-wong. As if resonating with the nature of the ancient force realm or something, the entire canvas of myriad forms and connections vibrates with the deep sea. Of course, it isn't awakening some hidden power or potential, it's just resonating together ordinarily. Floating above the night sea for some time, I reach out to them. Sururuk. My hand passes through their illusions. I can't grasp them. They are clearly connections I have once made, but now they are nothing more than intangible phantoms. Reaching out foolishly into the air and reminiscing about old memories has become a habit of mine. Though it seems like a foolish act, I can't stop. It feels as if I keep reaching out. Eventually I will be able to grasp them. My tendency to spout nonsense about being an earthling from a civilized society when I'm struggling isn't without reason. Even if it's meaningless, I feel like if I keep repeating it, I could go back to that place. This act is the same. Even if it's meaningless, I'm doing this because I feel that I could grasp them again if I keep gesturing. But to reach the next realm, I have to sever this. Backslash. It's impossible. Backslash. Passasac. As I reach out, the hazy mist scatters. In the end, it's just the night sea around me again. I seem to understand the contradiction Kim Young-hoon is trapped in. To return home, one must train and refine their martial arts to reach a higher realm. But without abandoning their initial goal, one cannot reach the next realm. It's a situation where the cart is before the horse. So what should be done? Backslash. Up to the integration stage, it's still somewhat manageable. Backslash. There's hope that if I continue to build the 5 blessings axes and realize the 6 extremes to complete the earth axis stage, I can somehow reach the integration stage. But the star-shattering stage and beyond seated detachment, standing oblivion, I can't get a sense for it at all. Can I truly reach it? Even now, the difference between the star-shattering stage and those below it is insane. Usually, I believe that if I raise the 3 great ultimates to the extreme, I can have a good fight against beings 2 realms above. But even if I reach the grand perfection integration stage with the 3 great ultimates, it's uncertain if I can handle the insane Kong Minhee. Backslash. Why am I doing this? Backslash. Suddenly, a fundamental question arises as to why I am doing this. Is it because I am out alone at night? Random thoughts enter my head, and eventually, a heart demon starts gnawing at my mind. Why do you live? Another illusion of myself appears before my eyes. A life that isn't truly living. You have no interest other than breaking the cycle of regression. You pour your entire life into becoming stronger, running yourself ragged to save people like Kong Minhee and Kim Yun. Even though you know it's futile, do you know how pitifully foolish you look from the side? Backslash. Acting as such, do you think anything will change even if you save them? You know that fate is fixed. Even if you save them, they will be miserable again. You might as well abandon all those connections and shut yourself away in some remote place. Train for 1,000,000 years, become a true immortal, and then regress to save them all. No. You know that's the best way. Isn't that right? Backslash. The illusion of me is dressed in black, with 19 heads. It whispers to me. So just kill yourself right now and, using a more optimized method. Backslash, and then, backslash. But I look up at the heart demon before me with empty eyes. I don't tell others, but this type of heart demon frequently torments my mind. However, I have never been devoured by any of these heart demons. Backslash, and then if I die, then what? Backslash. I look down at the heart demon with hollow eyes. It starts to shrink gradually. Even if I die, I come back to life. I can't describe how madly jealous and filled with resentment I felt seeing Seo Lee die peacefully with a smile. I am so incredibly envious of him. Cultivators have various reasons for cultivating. Immortality, infinite power, vast knowledge, new truths. Exploring the world, complicated grudges. To avoid being manipulated by others, just feeling it suits them and they make steady progress. But I dare to claim, I am cultivating for a reason that is different and alien to any other cultivator in the 3,000 worlds. Backslash, I want to die too. Backslash. Clench. I grab the heart demon before me and open my mouth. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The heart demon with 19 heads is caught in my hands and torn apart in my mouth. The reason I have never gone completely mad despite encountering countless heart demons. It's because I myself am my greatest heart demon. Even if I go mad, it's useless. In my first life, I went mad, screaming that I am an earthling from a civilized society. It was useless. Everything was undone. Next, I became mad for work and achieved nearly everything, though it was somewhat unsatisfactory. It was useless. Everything was undone. I became stronger, learned the secrets of the world, gained recognition for my position, lost precious people, gained them back only to lose them again, gained invaluable experiences, made cherished friends, grasped many truths and powers, and my position rose rapidly again. It was all useless. Everything was undone. I did manage to retain some connections through the regression point fixing it itself. But, backslash still, there is more left, backslash. The regression has not disappeared. In the end, due to Yang Sujin's warning, I never uttered the word regression out loud. But because of that, it feels like my heart is burning even more. Chua. I strike my fist down with all my might. The power I have accumulated up to this point invokes immense force, causing the deep sea to surge. After devouring the heart demon, I realized the reason it has suddenly appeared with a gloomy expression. It's because I heard that it must be severed. It cannot be severed. I have already lost everything, numerous times, within the flow of time. Because of the curse of regression, countless times. I know well that Kim Young-hoon never lies about the next realm. If he provides a clue about the next realm, it is always true. Thus, when he said that severing everything is the only way to reach the next realm, He is surely correct. I feel the three great ultimates rise behind my back. Recently, I feel like I've come to understand. The cultivation methods of the Heaven tribe and Earth tribe are gradually converging. Up to the heavenly being stage, the cultivation methods of the Heaven and Earth tribes differed. But from the four-axis stage, even with Heaven and Earth dual cultivation, the path of power and the method of expressing power, along with the cultivation methods, have no major distinctions, other than the amount of spiritual power one can contain within their body. And according to the words passed down by others, by the star-shattering stage, the cultivation methods of the Heaven and Earth tribes have almost no difference. I also know well the ascension ritual for the star-shattering stage. The Grand Cultivator Association made everything public for those who potentially want to become an esteemed one beyond a Grand Cultivator. However, Grand Perfection Integration Stage Junjie, Late Integration Stage Joel Make, even Han 1, who was once at the late stage, all remained at the later stages of the integration stage and never attempted to become esteemed ones. The ascension ritual for the star-shattering stage is also similar to what Kim Young-hoon mentioned. Interestingly, just as the planes of Chi, Soul, and Fate are essentially one, Heaven, Earth, and Heart become increasingly similar as one progresses to the later realms. I don't know if it's all streams return to the origin, Wanlu Guizhong, or something. But now, if I want to advance to the next realm, there is only one way. Abandon. Ruthlessly abandon what I absolutely cannot. That is the way to rise even higher. How do I abandon ? There is only one reason why the heart demon came to me, spouting nonsense, and ended up being devoured. Because there is no answer. I have to raise my realm, but the path ahead is bleak. Regardless of how much time I invest, just how can I possibly use that method? Previously, I had a subtle expectation that even the most daunting realms could be broken through by throwing enough time. But now I know. There are things that cannot be done even with time. Like the nonsense the heart demon spouted while knowing nothing. Even pouring in 1,000, 10,000, even 100 million years would not make that method possible. At least not for me. Having faced countless heart demons and experienced numerous such frustrations, I can predict my next action. Still, I will continue to train and challenge the extremes of seated detachment, standing oblivion. Then, I will raise my cultivation to the integration stage in all aspects. Achieving grand perfection integration with all three Heaven, Earth, and Heart will be quite useful. Perhaps, I might even be strong enough to attempt escaping before a star-shattering esteemed one. But I know the outcome. Once again, I will hit a wall and wail for 1,000, 10,000, even 1,000,000 years. This isn't a matter of talent. This is a matter of whether I can abandon or not. Damn it, Gazing upon the deep sea that has returned to its original state, I mutter a low curse. I can see something wriggling below. A deep-sea monster seems to be eyeing me. Chua. Towards the void above, a whale-like monster covered in countless illusions opens its mouth and leaps at me. Boom. It's a monster at the Grand Perfection 4-axis level, but I casually slice it open and pull out an ancient stone the size of a head from inside. It is said that deep-sea monsters are not living creatures, but a type of record taking shape, formed by the histories of countless dimensions. The monster floats above the deep sea for the time it takes to drink a cup of tea before melting away and disappearing. Sutsutsu. The deep-sea monster, made from the records of the past, appears to dissolve into the air, and its corpse melts and scatters into the void. The countless remnants of the past within the deep-sea monster scatters. It's when I stare blankly at the scene. Suddenly, a faint greenish shadow from the past brushes past in front of me. Within that remnant, I see a scene of a neighboring family carrying a large coffin up a mountain with someone. The family consists of a middle-aged couple, climbing the mountain with a small girl. The girl is the Jew family daughter. Seeing that remnant, my eyes are wide open as I approach it. Just then, Pachacek, the remnant that emerged from the deep-sea monster's body coalesces in the void, forming a green beast. It's a small deep-sea monster, reconstituted from the information entity that emerged from the original deep-sea monster's body. W8, I lunge at the green beast. It has the form of a deer, and as I charge at it, it immediately starts to flee. Tung. My eyes are wide open as I stare at the deep-sea monster. Wait, what are you? I begin to chase the deer. Above the mystical night sea of the ancient force realm. There, the chase between the green deer and me begins. The deer leaps across the sea like Kim Young-hoon. I keep chasing its tail, but strangely, the closer I get, the farther it seems to be. Stop. Stop right there. My eyes are bloodshot as I chase after the suddenly appearing deer. Stop. I'm saying stop right there. I demand you stop this instant. Chua. I use every method at my disposal, from the flying escape technique, ground shrinking technique, gliding technique, and sword flight. However, the deer never gets any closer to me. Gritting my teeth, I yell at the deer. See, come back. Come back. But the deer evades me and flees far away, and I can only float above the dark sea, having lost sight of it. What was that? It's a strange occurrence. I ran with my full strength for quite some time. I flew at a speed that could cross the Weizhong Sea domain multiple times, yet not only did I fail to catch it, but the sea seemed to stretch endlessly. What did I see? Regaining my senses, I realize I haven't strayed far from where I had caught the whale-like deep-sea monster. Tell me too, whatever. It seems the deep-sea monster showed me an illusion, I sigh, rubbing my head. Did I go mad? If Kim Young-hoon was nearby, he would have taken precautions for me falling into the illusions. But since he left, and I am alone in the night sea of the ancient force realm, I must have briefly been enchanted. That was close, I shake my head. It seems there was a reason why Kim Young-hoon warned me about the dangers of staring too long into the night sea of the ancient force realm. I turn back to look at the spot where I caught the whale monster. All the illusions have scattered and vanished, with only the sea of dimensions rippling. I should head back, I didn't think one deep-sea monster was particularly dangerous, but witnessing that bizarre illusion just now changed my mind a bit. I used the ground shrinking technique to return to the floating twilight domain in the distance. Kagugugu. The twilight domain has already reached the edge of the air bubble before I knew it. Now, the wall of the dome sky is visible right in front of me. Chua. The end of the bright blue horizon I had seen from Sacred Orchid Island is right in front of my eyes. It really looks like the view from the head realm. Just like the head realm, the end of the horizon here is cut off as if it's the world's end. However, if something like the world shield force blocks the world's end in the head realm, this sea domain has seawater rising vertically, forming a wall of deep sea that stretches endlessly into the sky, creating the dome sky. To cross into another sea domain, one must overcome this wall. Let's see. When it's time to cross the wall, I was told to call for either Yunwei, Seo Ran, Shurho, or Bu Qianghua. Seo Ran and Shurho seem very busy, and Bu Qianghua is currently drunk and going wah-wah, while having her hair sucked by the equally drunk Kim Yun. Shaking my head, I look towards Yunwei. Fortunately, Yunwei is gambling with the slightly recovered Yukyo. I'll have to ask Yunwei. I send a voice transmission to Yunwei, and she, who is in her split soul state, overturns the board where she is losing to Yukyo, and takes the stakes straight into the room where John Meng-hoon and Yun-jin are training. A moment later, after a brief commotion inside, Yunwei, now in Yun-jin's body, flies towards me. Have we already reached the end of the sea domain? Yes, please cool off your sweat. No need. It's not my body anyway. Ho. Anyway, since the Conqueror King Kid said it's the same as before, my help should be enough to cross. Yunwei wipes her sweat and gazes at the enormous wall of the dome sky ahead. For now, do you have any ancient stones? Here you go. I break the ancient stone from the whale monster I just caught into small pieces and hand it to her. Yunwei grasps a handful of ancient stone pieces and forms a hand seal. Pat it. The ancient stones emit light in midair, transforming into a compass-like shape. The compass-like shape creaks in the air and points to a specific spot on the dome sky wall. Move the twilight domain over there. Yes. Kagugugu. After moving the twilight domain to the indicated spot, Yunwei nods. Extend your attraction force straightforwardly in the direction indicated by the ancient force compass spell, Wawoom. I extend my attraction force as instructed. Suddenly, I feel as if my attraction force and consciousness are being sucked into the direction far beyond the dome sky indicated by the compass. At some point, my attraction force and consciousness connects to somewhere beyond the dome sky wall. Is it connected? Yes. However, I'll teach you the hand seal. Chant the invocations while forming the hand seal and pull. Woo-woom. Following her instructions, I form the hand seal while pulling the twilight domain to the designated location with attraction force. Simultaneously, the twilight domain embeds itself into the dome sky wall. Kagugugu. Countless dimensional fragments flicker like shattered glass. These are the remnants of destroyed worlds. I feel a sense of disorientation, as if I might lose my way at any moment. However, something connected to me gently pulls me along, guiding us on our path. With this, I advance without panic and lead the twilight domain forward. And soon after, Kagugugu. The twilight domain enters somewhere. Backslash. Is this another sea domain? Backslash. I look around. It's a rather narrow space. It's just large enough to contain the twilight domain, which is the size of the Indian Ocean. Of course, that size isn't small, but compared to the sea domain I know, it's quite confined. However, Yunwei shakes her head. Backslash. This is the middle zone. Backslash. Backslash the middle zone. Backslash. Backslash yes. Between sea domains, there are numerous overlapping dimensions and spaces, making it easy to lose your way if you swim through them for too long. Therefore, many integration stage cultivators and esteemed ones have created middle zones at appropriate distances. Think of them as relay stations between sea domains. Try reading the attraction force surrounding this space. You can interpret it like this, backslash. Following her method, I read the flow of attraction force surrounding this alternate space. Backslash. Can you feel the flow of attraction force? Within that flow, you should sense the coordinates of the Weizhong sea domain and another sea domain. We need to repeat what we just did to reach the coordinates of the sea domain we are heading to, backslash. Backslash, backslash. Backslash, are you listening to me? Backslash. While listening to her words, my eyes tremble. This flow of attraction force, this spell etched into this alternate space. Backslash, Xiao Unhyun, you rascal. When your ancestor speaks, you listen, backslash. This is, suddenly, a decaying corpse realm comes to mind. At the bottom of a valley of that realm, that formation and jade tablet. The world with Ham gene. Activating the formation in that world transforms the surrounding area into an air bubble, separating it from the decaying corpse realm with a peculiar attraction force surrounding it. I didn't know what it was back then, but now I understand. The thing in Hamjin's world is a middle zone. Recalling the flow of attraction force I had read back then, I use Yunwei's interpretation method to read it again. Backslash, you insolent brat. If this were my time, you'd have been smacked for showing such an attitude towards a senior. Backslash. In the middle zone of Hanjin's world, there are two sets of coordinates imprinted. One is here, the ancient force realm, and the other leads to a place called the lightning sacred sea, Leisungaf. As I shake off Yunwei, who is dangling from my shoulder, my eyes brighten. Yes, now that I think about it, he is there. Using her interpretation method, I have obtained the coordinates for the lightning sacred sea. According to Xiao Huiol, the lightning sacred sea is a distant place where esteemed ones ventured for expeditions. Among them is Jangik. Kagugugu. As I move the twilight domain to a completely different sea domain, I quickly ponder. If truly, as Kim Young-hoon said, severing all connections is the way to proceed, how did Jangik manage to do so? It doesn't seem like he has abandoned all worldly desires and attachments. Though he has an air of transcendence, he is still fighting for the interests of the Heart tribe. How can someone who abandoned everything still do that? While I don't think Kim Young-hoon's method is wrong, considering Jangik's case, surely, there must be another way that doesn't require abandoning everything. I think with bright eyes. Let's go meet Jangik. Perhaps, if I receive his teachings, I can discover another path. Massaging my somehow stiff shoulder, I resolve to meet Jangik in the Black Sea domain, where the main fleet of the Bukyang fleet is located. Translator notes. Term changes. Mystical Scaled Fish Commanding Sect -- Black Scaled Fish Commanding Sect. 72 Earthly Sha True Words -- 72 Earthly Fiends True Words. 36 Heavenly Gang Method Decrees -- 36 Heavenly Spirits Law Decrees. 12 Earthly Branches -- 12 Earthly Melodies. Immortal General -- Immortal Lord. Chapter 369, Holding Hands, 6. Kagugugu. I enter the Black Sea domain and head towards the home of Xiao Ran and Song Jin at its center. I make my way towards Black Island. After a while, I can sense a familiar presence. Kagugu. In the distance, I see a valley that resembles the Valley of Black Ghost Valley. It seems that just as Song Jin has renamed this domain, the island that once looked different has also been transformed into the appearance of Black Ghost Valley. But it doesn't have the same ghostly energy as Black Ghost Valley. Of course, this isn't the Nether Ghost realm, and obtaining such ghostly energy in the Ancient Force realm is no easy feat. If Xiao Ran, who practices the Ghost Path method, reached the 4-axis stage and could control the Dragon Vein, it might have been different, but since Xiao Ran's cultivation is lower than even Sure Ho's, it's meaningless. Kugagum. Soon after, when the Twilight domain reaches Black Island. Ho! Wawoom. A strong suction force begins to emerge from Black Island, starting to suck in the ghostly energy of the Twilight domain. And from within the Black Island that's absorbing ghostly energy, formation made of ghostly energy seems to arise, amplifying the ghostly energy. Kugagugagugu. Soon, living up to its name, Black Island turns into a truly eerie island with an environment perfectly suited for the cultivation of ghostly creatures. Pat it. CO Ran hurries out of his room, wiping sweat from his excited face as he looks down at Black Island. We've arrived at Black Island. Yes, but that formation on Black Island. Oh, that's a formation laid down by my master from one of the formations of Black Ghost Valley. Originally, it was meant to amplify the ghostly energy within the island to aid my cultivation and make my master's body more comfortable. He has a particularly cheerful expression. With this level of ghostly energy. Quagagagak. Suddenly, I sense a massive vortex of ghostly energy at the center of Black Island. That ghostly energy. It's a familiar wave of ghostly energy. Soon after, a familiar ghost emerges from the vortex of ghostly energy. Huh. It's Songjin. He inhales the ghostly energy comfortably, looks at CO Ran, and then notices me beside him, shuddering slightly. He sighs and speaks. I've heard everything from CO Ran, Senior. Please come in. Haha, calling me Senior? Just call me comfortably. Your joke is too much. Someone of Senior's level must have lived for thousands of years. It was rather disrespectful of me to not recognize Senior in the head realm. Having heard about me from CO Ran since the incident at Weijiangxi domain, Songjin apparently thinks I'm some old monster who hid his cultivation, and he respectfully bows. Well, if that's what he believes, there's nothing I can do. Since he firmly believes it, nothing I say would change his mind. Well, okay. If you want to treat me that way, do as you please. Anyway, is this Black Island a branch of Black Ghost Palace? Yes, that's correct, Senior. But due to the nature of the ancient force realm, we cannot contact the main sect, so we haven't been officially approved yet. I see. Then, does it have maintenance functions like the main sect, the Bright Cold Realms branch, or the head realm's Black Ghost Valley? Black Ghost Valley created functions to maintain the Nether Crossing ship even while it's floating in the air, to prepare for the possibility of it being unable to dock at sea. Even if the Nether Crossing ship's power source is temporarily halted, the formation of Black Ghost Valley can keep it suspended in the air, recharge its ghostly energy remotely, and perform maintenance. Yes, we have certainly installed such functions on our Black Island. Then that's good. I'd like our Twilight Domain to be supported by Black Island for a while. Songjin glances at the Twilight Domain and breaks out in a cold sweat. Senior. With all due respect, that landmass is so large compared to the Nether Crossing ship. I'm not sure if the function will work. It's fine. It will work sufficiently. Kagugugu. I move the Twilight Domain above Black Island and signal to Songjin with my eyes. Songjin sighs as he forms hand seals, and Twilight Domain begins to float above Black Island. Hong Fan, deactivate Twilight Domain's floating formation. I send a voice transmission to Hong Fan, and soon he temporarily deactivates the floating formation. Coom. Then, a formation activates across the entire Black Island, lifting 6 translucent shadows towards the Twilight Domain. The shadows become more distinct as they rise into the air, transforming into translucent, massive skeletal hands by the time they reach the Twilight Domain. The 6 massive skeletal hands shimmer translucently as they support the Twilight Domain. Kaguguguk. Of course, due to the weight of the Twilight Domain, the skeletal hands appear like they are about to crack, but the Twilight Domain is a landmass torn from the mainland of the Nether Ghost Realm. In other words, it's a land imbued with the pure ghostly energy of the Nether Ghost Realm. Sut. Nourished by the ghostly energy of the Nether Ghost Realm, the skeletal hands become even more defined, repairing any cracks and fissures on their arms and properly supporting the Twilight Domain. Songjin observes this scene for a moment before clearing his throat. Senior. Originally, 3 of these hands support the Nether Crossing ship, while the other 3 are used for its maintenance, but now, they're all being used to support your territory, making maintenance impossible. It's fine. We'll handle the maintenance of Twilight Domain ourselves. The reason I'm specifically using Black Island's formation is because Twilight Domain has been floating for too long, and its floating formation needs a break. Well then, come in. It's been a while, and I'm glad to see a familiar face. Although I hadn't formed a close relationship with Songjin like with Chongmun Ryong, we aren't on bad terms either, so it's a pleasant reunion. After hesitating for a moment, he finally enters the Twilight Domain. Reuniting with Songjin after such a long time is truly delightful. That's really fortunate. Songjin, who was almost out of ghostly energy and on the brink of being dragged to the netherworld, had his lifespan extended by absorbing the pure ghostly energy of the Twilight Domain. No, this won't do. If you wish, I can also give you a new body through our order's procedure and grace. I point to one of the followers doing chores in the Wuji religious hall and explain the grace of the Wuji religious order. However, Songjin laughs heartily and shakes his head. Thank you for the offer, but I no longer need a body outside the Nether Crossing ship. I've raised an excellent disciple and opened a branch of Black Ghost Valley in the ancient force realm. Now, I just want to pass away peacefully when the ship's lifespan ends. I heard from the Conqueror King that the Nether Crossing ship can last a long time if you recharge the power source and repair it entirely. It's exactly as said. If Buk Hianghua repairs the Nether Crossing ship, which was severely damaged by the Mad Lord, and recharges its power source with Twilight Domain's ghostly energy, it would allow Song Jin to live for quite a long time. However, Song Jin bursts into a hearty laugh and says, if we only consider the Nether Crossing ship, that's true. But the Nether Crossing ship, and that history ended in the war with the Mad Lord. The history of the Black Ghost Valley disciples laughing and chatting, being born and raised on the ship, practicing methods, kidnapping and looting, marrying, and having children who then entered the main sect. The peaceful history of the Black Ghost Valley that was embedded in the Nether Crossing ship is no more. He smiles faintly. I am grateful for the slight extension of my lifespan. Thanks to you, I can live for another 100 years or so. But I will enjoy this lifespan and close my eyes within the Nether Crossing ship. By then, my disciple will have become a great cultivator at the heavenly being stage, just like I once was, and I will have no regrets. I understand. I will respect your decision. I nod at Song Jin, who refused the procedure. 100 years might seem long, but for cultivators, it's a short time. Take the path to Penglai Island, for example. According to Yuk Rin, it won't open for another 120 years, so Song Jin will close his eyes before then. However, despite such persuasions from Seo Ran, there is no sign in Song Jin's eyes that he intends to change his decision. He truly intends to close his eyes after raising Seo Ran. Suddenly curious about Song Jin's attitude, I ask him a question. Let me ask you something. Please ask. If, for the revival of Black Ghost Valley, you had to abandon your most precious things, for instance, your memories of Black Ghost Valley or your feelings towards your fellow disciples, would you abandon them? Song Jin seems to ponder for a moment before responding. To abandon Black Ghost Valley for Black Ghost Valley. If I were part of a group, it would be my duty. However, abandoning is in itself a ridiculous notion. If I were to abandon my emotions for Black Ghost Valley for the sake of Black Ghost Valley, would the valley abandon me? He speaks with a calm smile. Even if I abandon my emotions for them, no. Even if I forget everything and become a monster, the valley would not abandon me and would still remember me. Therefore, I believe that completely abandoning or severing something is very difficult. They say attraction force is a mutual connection. Even if one side severs, if the other side pulls, the connection will still remain, will it not? Thank you for the good answer. Heavenly being stage cultivators are not just simple-minded people with poor talents. They are those who have condensed their own kind of madness to reach their level, and they have their own beliefs and answers about life. Thus, even though Song Jin has lived shorter than me, and his cultivation is lower than mine, his answer has its own profound wisdom. I am embarrassed. I merely mixed my understanding into the words of an argument I once heard before. Oh, from whom did you hear such words? The people who would converse with Song Jin, who had been at the heavenly being stage when alive, are quite limited. It should probably be the elders of Black Ghost Valley, or Azure Heaven Creation Sect, or Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect, or perhaps the Sea Dragon Tribe. In any case, it would be someone I know, but unexpectedly, someone else comes out of Song Jin's mouth. I heard it from Seo Ran's mother. In other words, a child who was a ghost-souled disciple of our valley. Song Jin speaks with warm eyes, looking at Seo Ran. He's changed a lot. Perhaps it's because he has been with Seo Ran for about 200 years. In the past, even if he cherished Seo Ran, he would grumble a bit because he's from the Sea Dragon race, but now he openly shows his affection for him. Seo Ran also smiles warmly at Song Jin's words. Master, you said that whenever my mother came to ask about immortal arts, you would have many conversations with her. Yes, she was a truly lovely child. That child Yuo, Song Jin, who was talking with me, speaks briefly with Seo Ran about his mother, Yuo. Haha, the conversation got sidetracked for a moment. No, it's all right. It's good to see. I think we've discussed everything needed anyway, so you two should enjoy your conversation after a long time. I laugh heartily and step aside for the two of them. The ghostly creatures of the Twilight Domain have gone down to Black Island and are engaging in voluntary activities such as teaching the disciples of the ancient Force Realm's Black Ghost Valley branch. Though there are faint cries and screams coming from below, it's nothing to worry about since the ghostly creatures usually make such noises. I descend to the basement of the Wuji Religious Hall and turn my attention to the salt crystal guarded by Hong Fan and Yun Wei. Is this the salt crystal obtained from Governing Dragon Palace? Yes, the Governing Dragon Palace Lord willingly handed it over. Hong Fan has already installed a flying immortal formation with the salt crystal from Governing Dragon Palace, allowing me to use it like a void spirit pond. Yun Wei grumbles discontentedly. In my opinion, didn't I say that guy is definitely hiding something more? The fact that he's willingly giving up such a precious treasure means there's a 99 plus 1 out of 100 chance that he's trying to hide an even more valuable treasure. My eyes can never be deceived. She crosses her arms and gives Hong Fan a slight glare. Listen here, Eunhyun. When I suggested to Hong Fan that we should feed Yukrin the poison that amplifies pain by 60,000 times and torture, didn't he say no? Don't you think he's going easy on him just because they're both from the demon race? Or maybe he has other motives? No, Lady Yunwei. Hong Fan, looking aghast, waves his hands in refusal. The poison that amplifies pain by 60,000 times is so severe that even a demon king in the integration stage would likely go mad. No matter how much of an enemy Palace Lord Yuk is, what did he do to deserve such torture? I shake my head and say, Hong Fan is right. The 60,000 times poison is too excessive. He hasn't betrayed us or driven us into a corner, so there's no need for such harsh torture just to find more hidden treasures. Yunwei turns her head with a pout, not receiving support even from me. Humph. If it's that Yukrin guy, he probably swallowed all the inheritance from the Cherry Blossom Dragon Palace Lord by himself. We could have gotten that legacy too. If we lose those treasures just because we couldn't be a little harsher, I think my stomach will hurt. Well, let's search for such great treasures gradually. For now, let's focus on fully building the health axis. Do as you please. Why ask an old fossil like me? She leaves the basement in a sulky manner, and I sigh while letting my consciousness drift. According to what I heard from Yukrin, the path to Penglai Island will open in about 120 years. Until then, the plan is to build and complete as much of the health axis as possible. Peaceful Cloud Continent. In Yua, located in the borders of the continent, 3 great masters at the peak Qi refining stage and 1 demigod of the Qi building stage dominate the land. And Yua's only Qi building demigod, the Qi building cultivator who settled in the nearby Black Ridge Valley after the collapse of Split Turtle Valley, fighting god, Dosun, Hamjin, that day as well, respectfully places a bowl of water on a small altar inside his cave residence and prays. Just then, rattle, rattle, rattle. Suddenly, the bowl begins to tremble, and the water turns black. HAHT. And the moment Hamjin regains his senses, he finds himself pulled into a pure white mental world. In that mental world, a giant ghost king looks down upon him. Hamjin bows his head in the presence of the Wuji Ghost King. Oh great one, did you summon me? The Wuji Ghost King looks down at him and speaks. I need to borrow your body. Have you kept the jade tablet safe? Yes, I have always kept it within my bosom. Good. Let's go to that place immediately. Hamjin nods, and as soon as he gives his consent, the Wuji Ghost King instantly takes control of his body. Shut. After taking control of Hamjin's body, I try moving it around. Ho, excellent. How much time has passed? Hamjin has already reached the 2nd constellation of Qi building. Your praise is too much. Hamjin responds humbly from within his heart essence, but in my eyes, his talent is truly outstanding. No, perhaps his unique talent has continued to blossom because I've often possessed his body. Whether his inherent talent is good or it improved because of me, it's great either way. It's when I'm about to leave Hamjin's cave residence. Sir husband, where are you going? A woman from another room calls out to him, rubbing her eyes in a disheveled appearance. Hamjin speaks, flustered. IG Great One can just wave her off, and it will be fine. Following his words, I wave my hand, and she politely bows and steps back in understanding. Have you married? That. While the previous core formation old monsters had demigod disciples and followers, the old monsters implanted restrictions that killed their followers and disciples upon their death. Because of this, I am the only demigod left in Yua, so the topic of marriage kept coming up from various cultivator clans and, well, that's your decision too. Sir husband, are you skipping breakfast today? However, shortly after, another woman comes out from another room in the cave residence and asks Hamjin. I wave her off as well and try to leave the cave residence. But as I try to leave the cave residence, I keep encountering more of Hamjin's wives emerging from various rooms. Just what kind of life are you living? After sending off the 17th wife and stepping outside the cave residence, I can't help but ask in exasperation. Hamjin coughs a bit awkwardly, as if embarrassed. I definitely did not force them or anything. They really are daughters sent from cultivator clans. They begged to stay here, saying they would have to marry much older old monsters from other countries. I click my tongue as I control attraction force with Hamjin's body, arriving at that location. Since Hamjin has reached the Qi building stage, there is much more I can do now with his body now. Kuguguguk. As I clench the void, attraction force twists. I take out the jade tablet from Hamjin's bosom and activate it. Split Turtle Valley disappears, and over the wide expanse of land, a green formation shines brightly. After a while, I notice that the surrounding space has transformed into a middle zone, just as before. Wawoom. I read the flow of attraction force within the middle zone and calculate the coordinates. The middle zone not only serves as a relay station connecting the sea domains of the ancient force realm, but also makes it easier to leap across vast spaces. In other words, the location that the esteemed ones are heading to, the lightning sacred sea, is so incredibly far that it required the creation of a middle zone. Why Yang? Having connected the other side's coordinates with attraction force and consciousness, I pull the coordinates toward me. Kugugugugu. In an instant, Hamjin's body leaps across an immense space. Within his mind, Hamjin looks around through my vision, marveling at the sight. Around us are countless stars, nebulae, and galaxies, all appearing as clusters of light. The very act of witnessing this vast world seems to trigger an awakening effect, further enhancing Hamjin's upper dantian. This kid's cultivation will rise even faster now. It's a good thing for me. How much space do we cross? Finally, I arrive at the next set of coordinates. This place is Kurung, Kururum. Lightning is crashing all around. Toxic gases lethal to humans float in the atmosphere, and sandstorms rage across the arid desert. It looks like a star, planet/celestial body, where life can't exist. Is this the lightning sacred sea? It's not. I realize that another middle zone has been set up at the location I have arrived at. Uguguguk. I reactivate the middle zone. I see. The place called the lightning sacred sea is so far away that the esteemed ones had to create an additional middle zone. It means it's a distance so far that a single middle zone is still insufficient to reach it. Once again, I use attraction force to activate the middle zone and travel to the next coordinates indicated by this middle zone. Wawoom. This time, I find myself on a star without any air. Like the moon, its gravity isn't very strong, and the land is barren. A place where life can't exist. And this is also a middle zone. I am slightly taken aback. How far away is the lightning sacred sea that even the esteemed ones had set up multiple middle zones? Suddenly, I recall that Jangik, who was summoned by Sacred Master Baekwoon, sent his clone only 1,000 years later. Perhaps it's a distance where even the esteemed ones, who travel through vast space and time using attraction force, take 1,000 years to reach this distant location. This implies that there could be many more such middle zones ahead. No, what is this? Damn, the coordinates were clearly labeled Lightning Sacred Sea. It seems that the esteemed ones had lazily omitted middle zone from what should have been labeled middle zone to Lightning Sacred Sea. They should have been more precise with their labeling. Well, at this point, I have no choice but to keep going. Wawoom. I activate the middle zone again and cross space. How many times do I jump through middle zones like this? I notice that Hamjin's body is gradually failing to endure. Hamjin, who accepted me into his body, is struggling to endure. Even though he has reached the mid-chi building stage, which allows me to exercise more power than before, he is still only at the mid-chi building stage. Despite the grandiose and laughable title of demigod, he hasn't yet surpassed the limits of humans. What should I do? I frown as I arrive on another planet filled with toxic gases. Hamjin's spiritual power and energy are depleting, and all the middle zones are on stars where no life can survive. If his spiritual power runs out, Hamjin is doomed to die. I could consume Hamjin's life force to draw on my power and partially modify the environment on the star to make it habitable, but I feel too guilty towards Hamjin. For now, let's keep going. I grit my teeth and continue moving through the middle zones. How many middle zones do I traverse like this? Despair begins to set in on my face. Damn it. Are there no worlds where people can live, except for Hamjin's? Every middle zone designated by the esteemed ones are on stars with extreme environments where no life can exist. This won't work. Damn, I'll have to replenish Hamjin's life force later with longevity and other methods. For now, I'll modify the area using his life force. Just as I'm about to seriously exert my power to modify the area for human habitation. Is it you, the one using the ancient force realm's transmission array since earlier? I turn around towards the voice, which appears without a trace. This is the surface of a planet so hot that even rocks melt. However, there stands a being unprotected by spiritual power, looking at me from atop a scorching rock. This is peculiar. Clearly, you're a first step before the throne, but your soul came from the ancient force realm. Does the heart tribe exist in the ancient force realm as well? It is none other than the green dwarf with 4 padeos on his back, the heaven-collapsing esteemed one Jangik. Well, it's whatever. The important thing is not that. Jangik smiles at me and draws one of the padeos from his back. When you meet an elder, you should greet them properly, right? Come greet me. If I like you, I might consider taking you as my 23rd disciple. Chapter 370, Holding Hands, 7. I swallow as I watch Jangik draw his padao. Oh great heaven-collapsing esteemed one, I have heard of your illustrious name. Well, do you have something to say? To start, I am not just an ordinary member of the Heart tribe, but originally from the Heaven tribe. And the method through which I have descended into the astral realm is by temporarily possessing this boy from a decaying corpse realm. In other words, if we fight, this boy is sure to die. Even if you do not spare me, please show mercy to this child. At my words, Heaven collapsing esteemed one looks at me with a curious gaze. You claim to be from the Heaven tribe? Fascinating. The Heaven tribe I know of think of the lives of their possessed bodies as mere fertilizer. Well, fine. Then come out of that boy's body for now. Even a Heaven tribe member should be able to greet me adequately with just an avatar, given that you've reached the first step before the throne. Thank you for your consideration, but if I come out, this child will burn to death in the heat of this planet. Do you think I would ask you to come out without considering that? Jang-ik swings his padao towards the surrounding hot zone. Kuguguguk. Then, something astonishing happens. It feels as if attraction force twists for a moment. No, it's as if the very laws themselves are twisting. Under a scorching star, a part of the planet's surface that once revealed a hellish appearance changes according to Jang-ik's will. Just as cultivators use spells to bend laws, Jang-ik's single move feels as if nature itself is obeying his will. In an instant, the hellish landscape becomes a pristine, clear valley where humans can survive. Although without grass and trees, clear water bursts forth immediately, cooling and soaking the ground. A crystal-clear lake, as if greenery would soon sprout from somewhere, unfolds before my eyes. Throw him adequately in there and come out. I am at a loss for words and my mouth gapes open. With the power of the Heart Tribe, is such a thing possible? Until now, I thought martial arts focused solely on confronting and defeating opponents compared to spell techniques. Of course, there are martial arts that can ignite flames or guide water, but transforming nature itself like Jang-ik is considered more the domain of spell techniques used by cultivators. After placing Hamjin's body in the lake Jang-ik created, I used the single strike of seated detachment, standing oblivion to exit from his upper dantian. Splash, plop. The first strike of seated detachment, standing oblivion, is an avatar, and the avatar doesn't differ significantly from the main body in terms of pure skills of the Heart Tribe. Of course, it lacks endurance compared to the main body, but that is the only difference. Jang-ik looks somewhat displeased as he sees me crawl out of Hamjin's upper dantian. Well, everything is fine, but why did you come out in such a sinister manner, like a parasitic monster crawling out to find a new host? You could have just come out normally. I guess it became a habit since I cultivated the ghost path method a little. I ask for your understanding. After glancing at the unconscious Hamjin, whose spiritual power and energy have been completely exhausted, I look around at the completely transformed surroundings and speak. Just what did you do? Why learn to fly when you can't even walk? Anyway, if you're a Heaven tribe at the level of descending into the lower realms, you should be able to do something similar with spell techniques. He leaves me with nothing to say to his truthful words. After exiting the area Jang-ik has created, I take my stance. I was merely inquiring while thinking about the next step. Well, that's not a bad attitude. But what I did is less about the enlightenment of second step before the throne and more about a technique I developed to stabilize regions in the chaos realm to establish a Heart Tribe territory after reaching second step before the throne. I see. Then I shall save questions about the next realm for later, after I greet you properly. Before finishing my sentence, I focus my mind and shoot towards Jang-ik like lightning. Gathering heaven and earth spiritual energy to form a chi sword, I aim straight for Jang-ik's face. However, he deflects my sword effortlessly with just one padao, not even drawing the others. Come closer. A rather abrupt statement, but I understand what he means. Between Jang-ik and me, countless domains and scenes are overflowing. Mostly, these are scenes of me being beaten up by Jang-ik, my body being split apart, or my head exploding. And the domains are places that Jang-ik could obliterate along with the entire space with a single move. Such places and scenes, numbering in the thousands or tens of thousands, are violently pressing down on my mind. And despite the physical proximity between Jang-ik and I, the myriad domains and scenes between us make him feel incredibly distant. Jang-ik is telling me to come a little closer. I will strip away his domain. Cool. Stepping forward with the right foot and leaning my left side back, I slash from the upper left to lower right towards Jang-ik. Before the stone fragments I have kicked off the ground fall back down, Jang-ik moves his padao, spinning 3 times on the spot, and sends 3 slashes towards my right side. It feels as if a gigantic claw is coming down to rip me apart. I immediately change my stance, slightly deflecting my sword to ward off the claw. I have to deflect it. If I can't, the next moment, I find myself flung into outer space. When I regain my senses, I see the aftermath of my exchange with Jang-ik wreaking havoc on the planet where I had been standing. From that single strike, I ended up here. Before I can finish my thought, I sense Jang-ik above me, holding a padao in both hands and ready to slice apart. I have to dodge. In a panic, I transform my body into the all-heavens sword to evade his strike. Though there is no wind in space due to the lack of air, the sight of everything in the area where Jang X's dual Padeos traverse being obliterated sends chills down my spine. Then, in the vacuum of space, Jang X's intent resonates like words enlightening the heart. Do not dodge. Chills. Rip. I definitely dodged, but my waist is severed and my upper body and lower body are split apart. You will die? Why? The avatar of seated detachment, standing oblivion being cut in half, is not the issue. Jang X's single strike was clearly executed in a dimension that I cannot comprehend. Master. Suddenly, an emergency alarm blares throughout the entire Wuji religious order. It's an alarm that sounds when the cult leader, Wuji Ghost King Seo Eun-hyun, suffers a critical injury. Hong Fan is shocked seeing the body of Seo Eun-hyun, who is sitting on the cult seat, being severed at the waist and stomach split open. He quickly begins to stitch the severed parts back together. What in the world? Why all of a sudden? A mysterious incident that makes no sense. However, despite such a bizarre occurrence, Seo Eun-hyun does not rise. Instead, he sits on the cult seat with an even more focused expression, his eyes closed and concentrating intensely on something. I don't know what he did, but he even cut the main body. A spine-chilling skill. It means that to Jang X, shallow tricks like using an avatar or the main body makes no difference. Gritting my teeth, I manifest about 3,000 chi swords around me. I have materialized the colorless glass swords. Chwok. 3,000 chi swords dance and attack Jang X. The dance of formlessness boasting an infinite trajectory that becomes a colossal slash that could cleave mountains. Boong. Has the sword formation shattered and my right arm cut off at the swing of Jang X's Padao. Gugu. There is no sound in space, but there is vibration. Looking back, towards where Jang X has struck. Not the place where Hamjin is, but another planet in this star system is split in half and is crumbling apart. Do it properly. Sururong. Just his gaze alone seems to crush my soul. All of a sudden, Jang X is already before me, holding his Padeos in both hands. Even though you are of the Heart tribe, as long as you are also from the Heaven tribe, I have no qualms about killing you. Why? My chi sword rises to the plane of soul and descends below. The single strike of Deep Mountain, emerging Dao explodes towards Jang X, but he shatters it head-on with his Padao. Quang. My seated detachment, standing oblivion avatar fails to withstand Jang X's blade attack and is flung towards a star from the expanse of space. Jang X is chasing after me again. No, saying he is chasing is incorrect. The moment I blink, he is in front of me again. He is different from Kim Young-hoon and other integration stage cultivators. If Kim Young-hoon is too fast to perceive and integration stage cultivators leap through space, he uses another method entirely. Huwum. To avoid being burned by the heat of the star's surface, I tightly wrap the all-heaven sword around my body and focus all my mental strength to deflect Jang X's next strike. Jang X raises his foot, then lowers it down. Though it's the foot of a small green dwarf, I see a terrifying vision of a slash that seems capable of shattering a continent from his kick. Quajajajajok. The seated detachment, standing oblivion avatar is driven straight into the surface of the star. I watch as crimson flames and heat storms erupt from the star's surface. A storm large enough to engulf an entire small planet. This is the star-shattering stage. I am utterly stunned by this cosmic power, but I clench my teeth and focus my mind on the all-heavens sword. There is no time to think about anything else. I've figured out how Jang X is moving. Surprisingly, Jang X is moving through planes. Of course, he isn't really moving entirely through planes. It's a method of briefly shifting to the plane of soul before descending to a lower plane. After figuring out Jang X's method, I sense the plane of soul and extend the all-heavens sword. Severing Mountain. Pasok. The ultimate technique of severing mountain swordsmanship, unleashed with full power, barely grazes Jang X's cheek as he suddenly appears before my eyes in a blink of an eye. His skin splits and a tiny drop of blood drips out. Despite being on the surface of a star, the fact that the blood droplet is oozing out ordinarily like any other decaying corpse realm or planet suggests that the area around Jang X is practically an alternate world. Wiping the blood droplet with a surprised expression, Jang X exclaims through heart language. Smart fellow. You figured out I was moving between planes and immediately counterattacked. Quang. Jang X slashes down with his Padeos again as he speaks, and I draw out all the remaining power in my seated detachment, standing oblivion avatar to deflect that force. However, the residual impact alone leaves the entire body of my avatar tattered, and to make matters worse, my main body seated in the Wuji religious hall is vomiting blood and dying. Even so, I can't die fighting Jang X in this life. Using the all-heavens sword, I begin drawing power from my main body through the plane of soul. Kugugugugu. The dragon veins of Twilight Domain converge around my main body, expending their power to open a path between us. Although the main body can't truly cross over, it's a technique that allows me to temporarily use my main body's other powers for a short battle. After converting the cultivation of the heaven and earth tribes from the main body, I raise them to the plane of soul through the all-heaven sword and bring them over before lowering them to a lower plane and integrating heaven, earth, and heart. Of course, this method isn't without cost as I feel the dragon veins of Twilight Domain temporarily drying up as a consequence. Whying. The three great ultimates rise behind me. Jangik exclaims in amazement once more. Huh, I was planning to burst your head with that single strike. That sword, is it moving through planes? You're using your manifestation very well. He chuckles and praises me. Then another green slash comes flying. Deflecting Jangik's force, I am flung away again. Quag-wag-wag-wang. I am swept beyond the star's horizon and thrown back out into space. Attraction force and spells, circuits, curses, blessings, immortal beast power. There is no time to pick and choose. If I don't want to die, I have to use everything I have. RTOC. Jangik's hand grasps my head. Oh, excellent. I don't know how you did it, but having all heaven, earth, and heart at a similar level is impressive. Combining all your power to reach the grand perfection integration level. Other esteemed ones would want to take you in as their disciple if they saw this. Though his hand is small, I feel as if every single cell in my body is clenched by his hand. I have to counterattack. Jangik raises his padao once more. Though he releases my head, I can't move. But if I take another hit, I'll die? RTOC. I force my body to move through the terror he has implanted in me. Then, I combine all the techniques of severing mountain swordsmanship. Simultaneously, I pour all the power of the three great ultimates into this one sword strike. I bet everything on this one move. Ahaha, a rather cute struggle. But I can feel it. No, I can see it. In the next moment, my whole body will be crushed, turning into a bright red Seo Unhyun kimchi pancake. Therefore, I will change that future. I become delicious, little heaven tribe brat. Record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. Pat it. In an instant, my body disappears amidst all flows and perceptions. I cannot be found in the future, the past, or the present. By transforming into the very emptiness. Comb, Tae Yeoljon tried to teach me. I evade Jangik's perception for a single moment. Quadadadudadak. I can see Jangik's eyes narrowing sharply. His padao cannot find me. However, in that brief instant, Jangik converts his padao single strike into a wide-range attack. His padao dyes the area around the star in green. Chwerararic. Fine needle-like strikes spread around the star's vicinity. And, in that brief moment of time, having just barely evaded his gaze, I, completely exhausted, with holes all over my body, am pulled into the star by its gravitational force. Damn it, I can't move my body. The tiny needles Jangik scattered have penetrated my entire body, holding me in place. I lost, and Jangik appears before me. Excellent. All of a sudden, he is holding Hamjin in one hand. Why, have you brought that child? Jangik is distorting the laws around him, allowing Hamjin to breathe normally even in the astral realm. But I don't understand. Does he intend to kill Hamjin because he is also of the Heaven tribe? However, Jangik suddenly grabs the back of my neck, laughs heartily, and starts flying somewhere. I went a bit overboard looking for you, Brad, and might have disturbed a superior. Let's run away. What? And then, it happens. Kuguguguk. The middle zone, where Hamjin and I came from. From that middle zone, from that scorched planet with a hellish temperature, shoots out a black hand. What the? Zeeth thrying. My whole body trembles. It's hard to maintain my sanity. That is. A quasi-immortal in slumber is tossing around because of us. Let's get out of here quickly. Kugugugugugu. Jangik brings us along and starts leaping through boundless spacetime. And, chasing the spacetime leaping us is the giant hand shot from the star, resembling a withered old tree branch. What is this? Why Wyson entering Nirvana there? Oh, to see a quasi-immortal for that long and still remain sane, you're quite something. Those below the integration stage might not know, but most true persons are in slumber, embodying stars in the astral realm. In fact, all worlds where ancient force transmission arrays are installed are essentially on the bodies of true persons, and, while there are some awake among the whole, they're focused on other worlds, making them difficult to meet. He laughs heartily as he speaks. Well, to sum up what I'm saying, that person is just stirring in their sleep, so we won't be caught. Anyway, with this level of mental strength and mastery of the basics, how about it? Becoming my disciple. I can't respond to Jangik's words, merely watching the giant hand chasing us and screaming in the cosmic void. Thus, Jangik and I cross the vast expanse of space-time, flying off to somewhere. Translator notes, second term changes. Comprehension, in the context of mantra, repentant enlightenment. Gurian slash Gubek slash Guwa dash Gurian, Gubek, Guwa. Dilim tree dash, Great Forest Wood. Chapter 371, At the Sea, 1. Ancient Force Realm. Wuji Religious Order. In the underground headquarters of the Wuji Religious Hall, the high-ranking members of the Wuji Religious Order have gathered, wearing serious expressions. So, Seo Un-hyun, who descended his consciousness to the lower realms to build the health axis, suddenly had his abdomen split open and vomited blood. Is that correct? Yes. And since then, Master has been in a comatose state. Splurt. Kuru. Seo Un-hyun, connected to the flying immortal formation while seated on the cult leader's seat, fails to open his eyes. Occasionally, blood will boil up and spew from his 7 orifices. John Myung-hoon gives a bewildered look to Hong Fan, who has been with Seo Un-hyun, and Hong Fan nods and hands over the records documenting the incident the entire time. Please take a look at this first. After examining the past scenes through Hong Fan's demon ability, John Myung-hoon asks with an even more serious expression, just what in the world is going on here? In my opinion, it's at that moment. Yun Wei, who is examining the records shown by Hong Fan, speaks with a grave expression. This can't be. Ah, ancestor. Do you know something? Yes. Fortunately, it's something I'm familiar with. She looks at Seo Un-hyun's condition with a darkened face and speaks. A sudden coma with symptoms of boiling blood. It is highly likely that he has been cursed by a deep-sea monster from the ancient force realm with a deep-sea curse. Senhado. Deep-sea curse. Yes. Occasionally, some deep-sea monsters of the ancient force realm cast very bizarre curses. When afflicted by such a curse, one falls into a coma and exhibits bizarre symptoms. I've seen the Cherry Blossom Dragon Palace Lord, who chased me around in the past, also fall into a frequent coma and suffer from a fever due to a mild deep-sea curse. At Yun Wei's words, Bu Qianghua asks with a slightly puzzled expression. Ah, but from what I heard, scales like flower petals appear on the body when afflicted with a deep-sea curse. Nonsense. I arrived at the ancient force realm 40,000 years ago and gathered all sorts of news and information. What you know is just a peculiarity of some specific deep-sea curses. With that, Bu Qianghua nods and steps back. Yun Weinim has certainly lived much longer than I have, so she must know more. Ignoring Bu Qianghua's question, Yun Wei speaks to Kim Young-hoon with a serious face. Hey, Heart Tribe. Make a wound on Seo Un-hyun's body. Well, alright. Boom. A golden light flashes, and a small wound appears on Seo Un-hyun's cheek, causing blood to flow. Yun Wei takes a drop of that blood and floats it in the air. Wawoom. Seo Un-hyun's blood, lifted into the air by Yun Wei's telekinesis spell, begins to boil as if alive and emits a hazy mist. Look at this. Such a reaction only occurs with the true blood of immortal beasts. But since this kid isn't of the immortal beast lineage and is purely human, this phenomenon indicates that he has absorbed some power of history from the depths of a deep-sea monster. With a solemn face, Yun Wei bursts Seo Un-hyun's blood. Hot. As the blood droplet explodes in the air, it emits a pitch-black and eerie energy. And this evil and bizarre energy, it definitely resembles the ungraspable nature of deep-sea monsters. Seo Un-hyun must definitely have been cursed by a deep-sea monster. However, Hong Fan speaks with a puzzled expression. But strategist Yun Weinim. To me, this energy seems similar to the devotees of the Nether Ghost Realm's true persons. What? I think, rather than being inflicted by a deep-sea curse, Master might have directly encountered a passing true person while descending his consciousness to the lower worlds. Silence. You fool. Would my insight, honed over countless years, be more accurate, or would your less than 500-year-old insight be more accurate? At Yun Wei's words, Hong Fan steps back while tilting his head. She crosses her arms, clicks her tongue in dissatisfaction, and speaks. Anyway, the Cherry Blossom Dragon Palace Lord, who was afflicted by a deep-sea curse back then, only suffered from a fever and occasionally woke from a coma. But Seo Un-hyun's blood is boiling, and he shows no signs of waking up. He must be afflicted by a much stronger deep-sea curse. Is there a cure? Kim Yun asks with concern, and Yun Wei nods with an air of confidence. Of course. The deep-sea curse may be terrifying, but it is a curse that can be treated. It can be cured using ancient stones. Ancient stones. Yes. You can transfer the curse of a deep-sea monster into the ancient stones. When treating the Cherry Blossom Dragon Palace Lord, who was afflicted by the deep-sea curse 40,000 years ago, I heard that about 1 million ancient stones were needed. Seo Un-hyun's symptoms seem 5 to 6 times worse, so roughly 10 million ancient stones should be needed. Upon hearing this, Bu Qianghua, Seo Ran, and many others' eyes widen as if they are about to pop out. 10 million ancient stones. Isn't even 1 million ancient stones the 10-year budget of a single sea domain palace? Seeing their reactions, Yunwei speaks. Well, is it not at least fortunate that the curse can be treated with ancient stones? Since we have obtained 4 sea domains, we should be able to gather several million ancient stones immediately, no? Co Ran speaks while flustered. Currently, from the 4 sea domains, we can gather about 4 million ancient stones. Ancient stones, given their high value, are traded at a ratio of 1 ancient stone to 100 spirit stones. Then we still need about 6 million more. Yunwei racks her brain with a serious expression, while Hong Fan sighs as he looks at Xiao Eunhyun. I don't think this is it. Master being cursed. What? What did you say, Hong Fan? It's nothing. Good. Then let's all work together to gather the missing 6 million ancient stones. Thus, except for Hong Fan, Yunwei and everyone else began their efforts to gather the ancient stones needed to save Xiao Eunhyun. Underscore, underscore. It's hot. No, should I say it's warm? It's the comforting feeling of being in my mother's amniotic fluid. Wait, what? Heek. Splash. When I come to my senses, I find myself in water. Water. As I become increasingly aware, I realize I am half submerged in a place that seems to be a hot spring covered with steam. This is, just moments ago, I was fighting Jangik and being chased by an entering Nirvana true person. But where am I now? I try to extend my consciousness to survey the surroundings out of bewilderment. However, I soon realize that my consciousness cannot extend. What's this? Is the water blocking my consciousness? No, it's the space itself that's blocking it. On guard, I raise my body from the hot spring. But as I do so, I feel a sense of unease and look down at the floor submerged up to my knees. What? There is no floor. Splash. As soon as I realize there is no floor, whatever I have been standing on disappears, and I sink back into the hot spring below. Splash, splosh. Eventually resurfacing, I try to gather my energy to perform Ladder to Heaven, but I suddenly feel something strange again. TL/N. Ladder to Heaven. Sangtinti. A martial arts technique in the Return of the Condor Heroes, where one steps on one's own foot to jump or leap higher into the air. There's no chi? That's right. Strangely, there is no chi in this hot spring-like place. No, even when I try to release the chi within my body, it won't come out. This space itself is distorted. Surely, this is not an ordinary space, but some place within a formation or a restriction. Hot. Feeling the flow of steam and air around me with my skin, I control my physical body to an extreme degree and rise into the air by stepping on the air. I need to survey my surroundings. How high do I ascend for exploration? What? Although I ascended into the sky, for some reason, the hot spring I have just left appears right above me. Splash. And I fall back into the hot spring I have just escaped from. Just what is this damn thing? Feeling a surge of frustration, I realize that either the space is distorted or my sense of direction is messed up. I decide to keep my eyes open underwater and try going down. For how long do I hold my breath and swim down the hot spring? Splash. I stick my head out over the hot spring, seeing the same scenery as before. Stay calm. Though I am startled by this bizarre situation, I take a deep breath, trying to stay calm without falling into panic. If there is no chi, then what moves this space? If neither chi, nor consciousness, can move, then what constitutes this place? As I ponder, I recall when I stepped on the air to rise into the void. Attraction force. Yes, that is it. Chi and consciousness cannot be used and do not function in this space. However, attraction force certainly exists. Even if something has warped and twisted the space, existence remains. If attraction force exists, then fate also exists. I close my eyes and ponder. The All-Heaven Sword is a sword that transcends planes. If only attraction force exists in this space, then at least fate must also inevitably exist. And the fact that I exist here definitely means that my sword also exists. Because the All-Heaven Sword is essentially me. Which means, sut. Sharp energy arises from my entire body, starting to slice through the hot spring water around me. Chua. In an instant, every single water droplet around me bursts and transforms into steam. Wying. I see this is. Feeling the All-Heaven Sword completely transformed into attraction force, my eyes brighten. Empowered by the characteristics of this space, the All-Heaven Sword has risen to the plane of fate. Kukuguguk. Using the All-Heaven Sword, I slash through this space, cutting the attraction force that governs this place. Chwak. I swing my sword toward the void. In the next moment, the hot spring world that envelopes me seems to be engulfed in mist, and I find myself someplace else. This is chwak. Hot water. steam covering the surroundings. Another hot spring. But, hey, how long has it been since you opened your eyes and you're already out of the bubble? Insane, this one. It's a bit of a waste to have him for dinner tonight. Kugagugum. From various places, I hear immense voices that seem to shake heaven and earth. Hihiok. Splurt. As soon as I hear those voices, blood spurts from my 7 orifices, and I feel as if my internal organs are shaken. The one saving grace is, woo-woo. I can use chi. In this other hot spring, I can draw upon chi and consciousness, and I quickly channel energy to heal my body. Unlike the previous hot spring, this one has many visible rocks and reefs, and a definite floor that allows me to climb up. I climb onto a nearby rock and look around. Kugagugagu. What is that? However, as soon as I try to extend my consciousness, I hurriedly retract it and lower my eyes. Beyond the hot spring's mist, gargantuan shadows resembling enormous giants flicker and loom. Recalling how my internal organs had shaken the moment I heard their voices, I guess at their identities. Swallowing hard, I respectfully bow on the rock toward the shadows beyond the mist. This humble human race cultivator, a certain CEO, greets the esteemed ones. As I offer my greetings towards their direction, a chuckling sound echoes from beyond the mist. Splurt. Puckwhack. It's as if the entire space is vibrating. Even though it's just the sound of laughter, it strikes my entire body like a full-force attack from an integration stage grand cultivator. Oh dear. He's dying. Come to think of it, we were speaking in our usual manner. Huh. You should understand. Since living in the astral realm, we often have to convey our thoughts to those across the vast space, so we tend to always speak a bit loudly. Thank you for your consideration. Is this speaking a bit loudly? I find it somewhat absurd, but I continue to keep my head bowed. Then it happens. By the way, you look quite tender and chewy for a human race. Can I taste just one arm? No? Perhaps just your left side? Twitch. One of the esteemed ones asks in a subtle voice, drooling from beyond the mist. I look up at them with eyes full of tension. Malice, me. While there is the sentiment of looks delicious, this esteemed one seems to harbor some grudge against the human race, sending malice my way. But how am I supposed to respond to this? As I remain silent, unable to respond, a shadow beyond the mist clicks their tongue in annoyance and says, "Since you didn't answer, I will take one of your legs as punishment." Waduk wadoo-da-duck. Then, my leg starts to get torn away. An attraction force close to cosmic power is tearing at my leg like it's a bug. However, gritting my teeth, I wrap the all-heaven sword around my leg and shift planes to escape the attraction force's influence. The shadow speaks in a tone of both interest and displeasure. Impressive. A mere grand cultivator escaping from my grasp. Let's see how long you can endure. The next moment, kugagugagu. My entire body begins to feel as if it's being crushed. The esteemed one's attraction force focuses on me. What is this? It's literally a force capable of compressing an entire continent into the size of a fist. I realize I have less than a second before I will be crushed into Seo Unhyun Do and grit my teeth to endure. Whine. The halo of the 3 great ultimates appears behind my head, pushing back against the esteemed one's power. However, the esteemed one only seems amused, applying even more pressure to crush me. I am going to die, just when I think I can't hold out any longer. Chwak. The hot spring water nearby splits, and something green rises into the air. It's the heaven-collapsing esteemed one, Jangik. He wipes the water off his head and shakes his body, then looks at me. Huh, you've already regained your senses and emerged? Quite impressive. But anyway, what are you doing? He looks towards the voice that has been toying with me, his eyes burning with green light. The voice seems to flinch at the sight of Jangik, then laughs and says, "The food you brought looks so delicious, I thought I'd have a taste first. If you share a little, I'll also offer a suitable compensation." At those words, Jangik climbs onto a nearby reef and says with a stern face, "Let go immediately. He's my disciple." "Oh, he's your disciple. My apologies. You know now, so why aren't you letting go?" However, despite Jangik declaring me as his disciple, the esteemed one across merely chuckles. "If he's your disciple, let's test him as such. After all, to survive here, one must have a certain level of skill, no? I've already tested him, and it seems he escaped from the bubble with his own power. That much is sufficient. Let him go." Well, everything's fine, but your tone bothers me, considering your disciple is in my grasp." The next moment, Jangik disappears from the spot. The attraction force holding me vanishes, and a terrifying scream echoes from beyond the mist. Kiwawawa. Flash. Green light flickers where the shadow is. Hukua. Kwawa. The esteemed one who had bound me screams in agony, thrashing about. The entire space vibrates and trembles. Soon after, the voice subsides, and Jangik reappears beside me. The esteemed ones who have been chatting around us collectively fall silent all of a sudden. "No one will mess with you from now on, so don't worry. That esteemed one is from the true devil realm and has harbored a grudge against the human race since before they became an esteemed one, so they act like that whenever they see humans. Well, discussing here isn't appropriate. Shall we move to another place? Belong. As Jangik waves his hand towards the void, the space is cut, and we are instantly moved to a different location. It's a place filled with endless darkness. Crackling. And in the darkness, Jangik lights a fire. You must have many questions. Since you must be taken aback, ask them slowly. First of all, where are we? This is the outskirts of the lightning's sacred sea. The outskirts are intertwined with countless barriers and dimensions set up by the golden deity, resulting in numerous overlapping dimensions. The lightning's sacred sea. Regardless of what happened, it seems I've arrived at my intended destination. Do you know where Hamjin is? You mean that boy who came as your incarnation? I left him on a planet where he can survive near the lightning's sacred sea. A human race at the Chi building level shouldn't get beaten to death easily. Thank you. You're a peculiar one. Is he important to you? Among all the connections I've made until now, which one isn't important? A wise answer to a foolish question. Jangik laughs heartily as he slices through the void. Brilliant golden light pours through the cut, and Jangik reaches beyond the light and takes something out. An apple. It's a golden apple that shimmers with a golden light. He tosses the golden apple into the campfire and asks while roasting it, "Do you have any other questions? Will you take me as your disciple? Did you not already agree?" Pardon. Confused, I retrace my memory and recall that during our escape from the true person's hand, I inadvertently accepted his proposal. You are my 23rd disciple. Congratulations. Ha. That was something I said when I wasn't quite in my right mind. Are you saying you accepted while in a state of mental weakness? From what I saw back then, the emotion you expressed was one of strong desire. Anyway, since I've already accepted you as my disciple, you are my disciple. Know that. He waves his hand dismissively, as if he won't accept any objections. However, I shake my head and say, there is a more outstanding genius than me. You should take that person as your disciple instead. Then I can take that person as a disciple, and you as a disciple too. What are you saying? Just introduce them to me later. Understood. Surprisingly, it settled easily. In any case, I've created a link to introduce Kim Young-hoon to Jangik. That's good enough. Is there anything else you're curious about? Why are you asking me to ask what I'm curious about? To empty. Pardon. I'm trying to satisfy your curiosity as much as possible to empty your cluttered heart. That way, it will be easier to train you. I have an instinctive feeling that Jangik's training will be extremely harsh and arduous. But I can't refuse. Since it's come to this, I should ask everything I can. I start with what I am most curious about. I've heard that the reason the esteemed ones have come to the lightning sacred sea is to retrieve very important things for the middle realms. What exactly are these important things for the middle realms? They are names. Names. That's right. Each middle realm, including Bright Cold, True Devil, Ancient Force, Purple Gold, Nether Ghost, and Bloodine, has a true name. A long time ago, the golden deity stole jade plaques imbued with the power of those true names and embedded them in their immortal treasure. That's why we are here to retrieve them. What happens if you find these names? If we find the names, the dimensional barriers of the middle realms will become much thicker. There's a significant ritualistic meaning, and the attraction force will so and become much better. I don't know all the details, but one thing is important. I am startled by Jangik's next words. If the jade plaques inscribed with the true names of the middle realms are retrieved, the chances of the living beings in the middle realms avoiding the end increase exponentially. The end. It's a term I've heard intermittently before. I swallow nervously and carefully ask, what is this end? It's self-explanatory from the name. The world will be destroyed. This heavenly domain, in other words, our astral realm, the 6 middle realms, and the decaying corpse realms connected to those middle realms. All worlds will perish. Then, I understand the timing is about 10,000 years from now. Pardon. I stare blankly at Jangik, losing my focus. He repeats calmly, as if it's nothing new. In 10,000 years, the world will end.